Douluo, what's wrong with me being in a relationship in the spirit hall? This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Official Meeting with Zhu King. The person who came was a young man wearing luxurious clothes and a mask. The young man exuded an innate nobility, and his whole person gave people an extremely comfortable feeling. With just one glance, Jin Renai recognized this gentle and jade-like figure. The young man in question is the one Jin Ringsu pretends to be, Zhu King. Jin Renai did not speak. She looked away, and just looked at the person who was not far away from her. Seeing this, Kinming didn't intend to make trouble here. Although he didn't know who this masked boy was, he could see from the eye contact between Jin Renai and the young man. He probably knew that the relationship between the two was not simple, adhering to the principle of not being nosy and not interfering with the student's private affairs. Kinming instructed Jin Renai a few words and then led the staff to take Yu Shai and Heng and the others away. When Kinming left, only Zhu King, Jin Renai, and Shrek were left on the field. Flanders and the others didn't expect that the game would end like this, so they didn't prepare any treatment personnel. No, they immediately went to look for them, but they haven't found them yet. In order not to delay the start of the next game, the staff first carried the Shrek 7 Devils to the backstage lounge. As for whether to treat them or not, Xiandao Spirit Fighting Arena had no such obligation. After clearing the place, Zhu King and Jin Renai looked at each other. He smiled slightly and motioned Jin Renai to leave with him. Jin Renai nodded, and the two of them went to the VIP area together. Hulina in the audience saw all this. She wanted to say hello to Jin Renai, but when she saw someone entering the VIP area, she had to give up the idea temporarily. Nana, Hulina's eyes stayed in the VIP area. Her expression looked a little strange. Ever since she received the letter from Wuhan City, Ziyu looked at her, and couldn't help calling softly, "What happened?" He cared. It was rare to see Hulina showing such a strange expression. Ziyu could not help but feel a little strange. He thought for a while and asked softly, "Is it His Majesty the Pope?" His younger sister still knows best. Ziyu hit the nail on the head. Hulina was speechless, even though he guessed that the matter was related to the Pope's palace, but he still couldn't guess what made Hulina look so strange. Even strange, it's also a little difficult. Hulina sighed imperceptibly, stood up and frowned. "The teacher asked me to build a good relationship with Jin Renai. By the way, I want to find out more about Jin Renai's life experience." Life experience? Ziyu was silent for a while. Isn't she a child of the Temple of Enshrinement? Yes, but the teacher now doubts her identity. Due to the favor of the Enshrinement Hall, she is not easy to investigate. So, when she received Bibi Dong's handwritten letter, Hulina also felt strange. She didn't understand why Bibi Dong suddenly wanted to investigate Jin Renai's life experience. Is it possible that Jin Renai's life experience was not simple? A second lady who can be publicly recognized by the shrine, Nana, she has never been a simple person. Although Ziyu does not know the origin of Jin Renai, behind Jin Renai is the entire worship hall. No matter from which angle you look at it, it is not simple. Moreover, if she really has any special identity, Ziyu Yuzheng prefers Jin Renai because she is valued by the Enshrinement Hall because of her strong strength. A 10-year-old child, a level 35 soul master, there is no such existence in the entire Douluo Continent. Regardless of whether Jin Renai has any special status, she will be retained by the Enshrinement Hall. After all, such a genius is given to it, would be better for outsiders to keep it to themselves. Hulina also understood the meaning of Ziyu's words. She nodded in agreement, but still couldn't figure out why Bibi Dong was interested in Jin Renai's life experience. VIP area. In a luxurious box, Jin Renai followed Zhu King in. Outside, two Contra souls were guarding. At a glance, Jin Renai could tell that they were Wuhan people. "Little Lord." When passing through the public VIP area, Lion Douluo saw Zhu King and Jin Renai. He frowned slightly. Never thought that Zhu King would appear here. It is not easy for him to go up a mountain to stop the area where there are groups of nobles. King Lion Douluo patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry about it, the young master has his own plans." Can. Lion Douluo paused for a while, his eyes drooped, and finally chose not to speak. Jin Renai is the second young lady of the Wuhan Palace. At this time, the young master is so close to her as Zhu King. "I'm afraid." Lion Douluo heaved a long sigh. What he was worried about was only the situation of his young master at this time. In the luxury box, Zhu King took off his mask. After entering the box, he was a gentle and elegant young man with short blonde hair, soft and fluffy, and a fair and handsome face with a faint halo, as warm as jade. There was a slight smile on his lips, and his eyebrows were curved, as holy and flawless as an angel, and the stranger was like a stranger. Jade, the young master is unparalleled in the world, may be used to describe him. Jinri faced Zhu King's face for the first time. It was when she was close to Zhu King that she realized that this person was the one who said that her physical fitness was not good at Xiandao Royal Academy. Although she suspected it was him at first, Jinri never expected that he would come here today. However, should she call him His Highness the Crown Prince, or Sister Xiaoxu? Sit down. Zhu King's soft eyes swept across Jinri's face. He sat down on the expensive leather sofa and immediately began to play with the tea set on the desk. Autumn is in the thick of it, but the weather is fine. The sun shines through the leaves all over the ground, a golden color. The desk is next to the window, and bits of golden light are passing through, mottled and dazzling. Jinri sat down quietly, and her eyes fell on the table. She saw a set of exquisite blue and white porcelain teacups. In the teacups, green bamboo buds were floating on the water, and the fragrance was pleasant. Zhu King's technique was fast and his movements were nimble, and he brewed a cup of tea in a short time. Try it. Zhu King pushed the teacup in front of Jinri. Jinri nodded, picked up the teacup and put it on the tip of her nose to sniff lightly. She lowered her eyes slightly, and saw that the tea soup was clear, bright in color, rich in fragrance, and refreshing. Taking a sip, Jinri's eyes flickered. The taste seems to be quite good. This is the best soul power supplement I secretly took out from Grandpa Guangling. You just consumed a lot of soul power. This is just right for you to drink, with a cup of tea and a pair of medicine. Zhu King just looked at Jinri. He was a little curious as to why Guangling kept preparing a way out for this child, and why he didn't do these things himself. Could it be that this child is Grandpa Guangling's illegitimate daughter, or the illegitimate granddaughter? Sensing Zhu King's interesting scrutiny, Jinri listened, then glanced at the teacup in her hand, and suddenly understood why she saw Prince King here. Did Grandpa Guangling ask you to come? End of this chapter. Chapter 52 Zhu King's Exploration. Jinri asked directly. Both she and Zhu King knew each other's identity very well, and there was no one else here at this time, so there was no need to be actors. What do you think? Zhu King didn't answer Jinri's question directly. He watched Jinri quietly. The inquiry in his eyes was self-evident. Jinri didn't feel disgusted. She smiled slightly and said, I know it's him. Well, it's him. Zhu King nodded and looked out the window. The scenery outside the window was just right, with towering trees and scattered birds, and the chirping of cicadas, which added a bit of spring color to the autumn day. But, second sister, I'm very curious about something. I wonder if you can answer it for me. After saying that, Zhu King withdrew his eyes and looked at Jinri again. Jinri looked at him and asked, What's the matter? Zhu King pursed his lips, a little uncertain. What is the relationship between you and Grandpa Guangling? Are you his granddaughter, or are you his daughter? Apart from these two, Zhu King really can't think of any other possibilities. After all, Jinri's attributes are exactly the same as Guangling's, and the two of them also have similarities in soul skills. To say that there is no relationship, Zhu King finds it too strange. In this world, how can there be two people who are so similar? Could it be said that it is a destined marriage? A trace of surprise flashed in Zhu King's eyes, and immediately he abandoned this idea. Jinri is only 10 years old, and Grandpa Guangling is already that old. No matter how you put it, this is a bit inappropriate. Shaking his head subconsciously, Zhu King felt that he might be crazy to think of that aspect. He is my savior, Jinri replied. She didn't care what Zhu King thought. As far as she was concerned, even she felt that she was too similar to Guangling. It was normal for Zhu King to have doubts. Savior? Zhu King slightly raised his eyebrows, but he did not expect such an answer. You two, are you not related by blood? A confused voice sounded, and Jinri shook her head. No, she knew that Zhu King would probably think she was Guangling's illegitimate daughter. No blood relationship. Zhu King's only guess was the latter. His expression looked a little strange. In his opinion, even though Guangling taught Jinri, the two of them had been together for less than a year. How could Jinri learn so quickly? In addition, Grandpa Guangling also gave her that thing. Zhu King's eyes fell on the silver hairpin inserted in Jinri's hair. The silver hairpin was composed of two parts. One part was a silver hairpin body, and the other part was a short sword. This item was an extremely rare soul. There is only one guide device in the entire continent. If Jinrinai is really not a relative of any grandfather, how could Grandpa Kinglong give her such a valuable thing? He has neither. Thinking of this, the jealousy on Zhu King's face flashed. He hummed lightly and got up. As if remembering something, he looked at Jinrinai and asked aloud, "Second sister, that blue-silver grass soul master, is it your brother?" "Yes," Jinrinai answered neatly. Her identity will eventually be checked, and it is relatively late to ask questions at this time. "Tang, how is your father?" Zhu King continued to test. He looked at Jinrinai. The gentleness in his eyes felt like a sharp edge at this moment. "Yes, Jin." Rinayu said calmly, "It's Haoshan Douluo, Tang Hao." Tisk Zhu King's pupils were slightly dilated and his eyebrows were arched. "You know quite a lot, otherwise, you can't be abused and you don't know who the other party is." Jinrinai raised her eyes, and the two looked at each other. Neither of them could see the clue from the eyes of the other. She knew so much, which must have included the help of the grandfathers in the consecration hall. Zhu King didn't think about anything else. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looked at the towering trees in the sun, and showed an unknown smile. "By the way, second sister, do you have a bad relationship with your brother?" On the soul fighting stage, Jinrinai did not show mercy to Tang San, but according to the news brought back by Shilong, it stands to reason that Jinrinai should have a good relationship with her brother, and as a brother and sister, how can I be more sympathetic? But Jinrinai's behavior just now obviously beat him as a strange opponent, and his second sister. In the end, he intentionally added some material when he amplified his moves. That kid Tang San, not to mention lying in bed for 10 days and a half months, at least he had to lie in bed for a week to recuperate. Otherwise, there will definitely be sequelae to be able to strike so ruthlessly. Zhu King wouldn't believe Tang San had been kind to Jinrinai. However, this does not rule out that Jinrinai's heart is really cruel. Asked about the relationship with Tang San, Jinrinai carefully recalled the memory of this body. She used her fingers to curl the broken hair left between the curly temples. She was silent for a long time. She really didn't think of anything. "Of course it's not good," she answered and looked at Zhu King, asking about a relationship with Tang San at this time. Jinrinai also thought that Zhu King was testing her. The identity of this body was a bit special, and there was a blood feud between Wu Hundian and Tang Zuzi. She would have felt abnormal if Zhu King didn't ask her about these things. "Is it not good?" Zhu King raised his head. The sun was shining on his face. Looking from the side, his exquisite facial features seemed to be plated with gold, making people unable to take their eyes off. "But I asked someone to investigate, and the villagers in Holy Soul Village said that Tang San loved you very much. If it weren't for Tang San, you might not be able to live to be 4 years old." Jinrinai was dumbfounded. Being able to survive to leave the Holy Soul Village did not lack Tang San's help, but she couldn't remember how much she cared for her. Perhaps it was because the original person was frightened to death and some memories were lost, but Jinrinai could recall some of the more profound ones if she recalled them carefully, such as when Tang Zuzi asked her to do hard work. "Also, as far as I know, your martial soul was just an ordinary lotus flower at the beginning, and your innate soul power was only half a level. Second sister, won't you explain this?" Zhu King looked at Jinrinai with a smile on his face, but there was a different meaning hidden in his eyes. Jinrinai's martial spirit was awakened by Su Yanteo with the help of Su Yanteo, who was from the spirit hall. The record book at that time must have recorded her martial spirit and soul power. Although it was many years ago, as long as you check, you will definitely find it out. Jinrinai's eyes lowered, but she didn't expect Zhu King to do this. But it also shows from the side that Zhu King really cares about her, and why her martial soul is awakening a kind heart. The time changes. Even Jinrinai herself can't find the reason for this. She stared at the tea set on the table and answered truthfully, "Yes, my martial soul was indeed just an ordinary lotus flower, and my innate soul power was indeed only half a level. But Sister Zuir, I am a twin martial soul and a god. The chosen one. Twin spirits. God's chosen one." Zhu King looked at Jinrinai fiercely and saw his pupils dilated, extremely shocked. However, at this moment, the door of the box was suddenly knocked. "It's gone today, no need to wait. I'm going to bed early tonight and get up early tomorrow morning for more updates. Good night." End of this chapter. Chapter 53. Are you afraid that I will bully her? Before recovering from the shock, there were knocks on the door. Zhu King and Jinrinai looked at each other. The guards outside were the soul masters of the Wuhan Palace, and there were two contras, the hole in the Xiandao Great Soul Arena. There would be no one so blind to touch the bad luck of the Wuhan Hall. So the person who knocked on the door was probably one of his own people. Please come in. As soon as Zhu King finished speaking, the door creaked and was pushed open. The person who came was a tall man wearing a gray robe. The man's whole body was covered by the gray robe. The only thing that could be seen was his left eye covered in ice and snow, which was like an icy soul. Grandpa Guangling. Jin Renai stood up quickly. After confirming that the man was Guangling, she was slightly surprised. Isn't Guangling controlled by Jin Douluo? Why is he here, Grandpa Guangling? Zhu King also spoke up after Jin Renai, but he was not surprised by Guangling's appearance. Why are you here? He asked knowingly. Of course I'm here to see my little Yue. Guangling took off his cape, smiled, and signaled Jin Renai to sit down with his eyes, and then went to sit on the sofa opposite Jin Renai. Little Zhuir, if you want to know what's going on with Xiao Wu, you can come and ask me. Calling Xiao Wu to this place alone will make it easier for the old man to find him. I'm exhausted. Guangling's tone was childish, and it was hard to tell why. He calmly opened the soul guide, took out a pack of green medicinal buds, and then skillfully brewed tea. The aroma of tea overflowed, and the emerald green water in the cup rippled. Guangling pushed the tea cup in front of Jin Renai. Jin Renai raised her eyes and looked at him. At this moment, her strange eyes became more and more obvious, almost as long as she glanced at him. You can tell it at a glance. Guangling had noticed the change in her eyes long ago. This state does not seem to be the intervention of a kind god. Rather than being related to a god, Guangling is more inclined to think that this is Jin Renai's martial soul backlash. Just a few days ago, he received news from Zhu King. Under Zhu King's investigation, all the previous materials of Jin Renai were found out. When he saw the ordinary lotus, he seemed to have thought of something. The Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus is the top martial spirit of the super auxiliary system. If Jin Renai had not fully awakened at that time, then all this would make sense. And Jin Renai's right eye should have nothing to do with the divine test. It is most likely a martial spirit. Backlash, or in other words, is the particularity brought about by Wu Han. It was also because he learned the news from Zhu King that Guangling felt something was wrong, so he hurriedly sneaked out of the Angel Palace. After returning, he would probably be in confinement for extra time. Picking up the teacup Guangling handed over, Jin Renai raised her eyes to look at him. Her eyes moved slightly. Did he come to support him? Zhu King didn't know that many things, and Guangling had never mentioned to him that Jin Renai was the person chosen by God. When he investigated Jin Renai's past information, Zhu King would inevitably feel strange, and this everything must have an answer. And Guangling came over in a hurry because she was afraid that Jin Renai would be wronged. It was also because he met Xiangxi and Kinglun on the road that he came here directly. It was also a coincidence that as soon as Jin Renai had spoken, he knocked on the door. Grandpa Guangling is afraid that I will bully my second sister. Zhu King acted a little surprised. He cast his gaze on Guangling and Jin Renai with a little probing. Zhu King knew that Guangling valued Jin Renai, but he didn't expect that it would be so important. God's chosen one. No wonder Grandpa wants to recognize her as his granddaughter. When he learned that Jin Douluo had a granddaughter, Zhu King felt a little uncomfortable and jealous. If it weren't for Jin Renai's really cute appearance, he would have been in Xiandao Royal Academy long ago. You're just trying to show off your power, so why take action now? Moreover, no one has ever informed him that Jin Renai is a twin martial soul and a person chosen by God. Can he not doubt Jin Renai? A look of resentment came towards him, and Guangling noticed it and didn't look back. It is true that he didn't explain this matter clearly to Zhu King. After all, he didn't expect that Jin Renai's martial soul had changed, and his soul power also changed. Something has changed. Seeing that the atmosphere was suddenly heavy, Jin Renai winked at Guangling, and Guangling's eyes told her not to intervene. Immediately, he pursed his lips, sighed imperceptibly, and immediately patted his legs and turned back. Oh, little Zhuir, what you said is ugly. What does the old man mean? What the old man means is that you can ask the old man if you have anything. What if Xiao Wu said something wrong and you beat her up as an enemy? When the enemy fights, Zhu King's face darkened. Grandpa Guangling, if you want to find a reason, please find a more legitimate one. She is my grandfather's recognized granddaughter, my second sister, and the little treasure you hold in the palm of your hand. Even if you suspect anything, you won't directly treat her as an enemy, so what you say is ugly, right? What Zhu King said made Guangling speechless. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, but he didn't expect to see her for many years. This girl's mouth was much smarter. Oh, as long as you understand what the old man means, Xiao Wu, To make a long story short, Xiao Wu has twin martial souls, God's chosen one, and it's only for this reason that elder brother values her. Don't think too much about it. In addition, the reason why elder brother wants to disclose Xiao Wu is because that woman Biberdong treated Xiao Wu at the time. The sum was murderous, and it was not easy for the elder brother to be caught in the middle. In order to dispel the woman's thoughts, I didn't have time to inform you. Later, the elder brother refused to let the old man tell you the whole story, for fear that you would feel bad. I just told Xiao Wu some things that can be said, and then, as he spoke, Guangling hesitated a little. He didn't want Jinrinai to know that he asked Zhu King to investigate her. The matter that made Jinrinai angry last time had just been settled. If it happened again this time, this matter misunderstood him and made him angry, and all his efforts were in vain. Therefore, at this moment, Guangling could only wink at Zhu King. Zhu King understood. But he didn't really want to cooperate. If you don't explain things clearly to him and let him go to work, he will also feel resentful. Okay, however, why did Biberdong want to kill Jinrinai? When mentioning Biberdong, Zhu King only had the woman's disgusting face in his mind. No matter what he did, she would not look good, as if he was her enemy. Tisk. Thinking of this, Zhu King's complexion suddenly became sour. He didn't expect that woman not only didn't like him, but now she has murderous intentions towards his second sister. What a bad woman, bad woman. Even though he thought so, Zhu King still felt a little sad in his heart. His eyes lowered slightly, as if he was trying his best to restrain his emotions. When Guangling saw this, she knew she had said the wrong thing. Damn it, he should have mentioned Biberdong. I have a question. Do you want me to post it after I finish writing one chapter? Or do you want me to post it all at once after I finish writing 3 chapters? My time cannot be fixed. If I post it all at once, I will try to finish it before 8 o'clock in the evening. End of this chapter. Chapter 54. The two fell silent suddenly, and Jinrinai also knew that it was because Guangling had mentioned Biberdong. Biberdong. From the perspective of human relations and women, she is indeed miserable, but from the perspective of the mother, she is really incompetent. But it's not Jinrinai's turn to intervene in this matter. The matter between Jinriksu and Biberdong should be resolved by themselves. She doesn't want to save a woman whose mind is full of destroying the continent trouble. Sister Zuir, Grandpa Guangling, what's wrong with you? Logically speaking, Jinrinai should not know what happened between Jinriksu and Biberdong, so it was perfect for her to break the awkward atmosphere at this moment. Jinrinai's expression was cute. Guangling looked back, her eyes suddenly narrowed into slits. Alice, the little baby he picked up, looks so cute. No wonder Xiao Zuir likes it too. Who cares? Who doesn't love it? Nothing. Zhu King glanced at Jinrinai. His voice was cold and clear, and then he resumed his smile as the Prince of King. The smile on his face was like a mask, and it seemed that no matter who he was facing, he always has this expression. Jinrinai looked at him intently. For some reason, at this moment, she suddenly felt that Jinriksu's life over the years was really a bit miserable, manipulating the identity of others for so many years, facing everyone with a smiling face. He is Zhu King and Jinriksu, but he never seems to have shown his identity as Jinriksu for so many years. Doesn't he feel reconciled? There were many complicated emotions in Jinrinai's eyes. Zhu King and her looked at each other for a long time. If it wasn't because he was convinced that Jinrinai didn't know what happened before, Zhu King would have suspected that the little girl was pitying him. Since Grandpa Guangling has said so, then I will naturally stop asking second sister. It's getting late, and I have to go back to the palace as soon as possible. Grandpa Guangling, you and second sister please go your own way. After bowing to Guangling, Zhu King went out wearing a mask. He didn't seem to want to chat with them here again, and he walked away without any hassle. Guangling was speechless. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. After confirming his eyes, he made Xiao Zuir angry. Grandpa Guangling, Sister Zuir has already left. Don't look at it. Zhu King left. Now it's time to talk about Guangling. Jinrinai cast her eyes on Guangling. She was really curious how this person came out of being locked up in the Temple of Angels. Oh, by the way, Xiao Zuir, how do you feel now? Guangling came to his senses at Jinrinai's reminder. He turned his head and looked at Jinrinai with concern. Jinrinai consumed a lot of soul power in the team battle just now, even though he and Zhu King made Jinrinai a cup of medicine, just to be on the safe side. He still had to ask his family Xiao Zuir, in case Xiao Zuir is big in size. 2 are not enough, it's almost recovered. Jinrinai replied, now that the team battle is over, she also has to find a way to complete the test of kindness, but before going, She has to find her cheap master to repair the heart of the sword. Maybe it will come in handy at that time. By the way, Grandpa Guangling, weren't you detained in the Angel Palace by Grandpa? Why did you come out secretly, Jin? Renayu didn't intend to take Guangling to the 7 treasure glazed tile school. She had an extra master, and she hadn't told Guangling yet. Yu's idea is to fool Guangling away. It's not too late to tell Guangling about her cheap master. The one who knows me is Yue. Guangling laughed, completely unaware that Jin Renayu is trying to deceive him at this time. Otherwise, he would probably be heartbroken to death. This time, the old man decided to play outside for a few more days. Anyway, he will be in confinement when he goes back. It's better to be cool for a while, and he will feel better. Hey, Xiao Wu, once your team battle is over, you will be on vacation, right? Guangling babbled, completely shattering Jin Renayu's thoughts of tricking him away. Yes, it's a holiday, Jin Renayu replied hesitantly. Damn, she shouldn't have told Guangling that she would have a day off after the fight. Now it's better. Guangling didn't follow her until she became a ghost. Since it's a holiday, why not go out and play with the grandpa? Guangling wanted to take Jin Renayu out for a long time to travel. When Jin Renayu said she wanted to eat snail noodles, Guangling actually went back and asked Jin Douluo, saying that it smells delicious and smells delicious. Jin Douluo listened, his eyes turned upside down, and in the end, he only left one sentence for Guangling. Don't be so ridiculous. It was also because of this sentence that Guangling felt that his elder brother was not that useful, and then he planned to wait for Jin Renayu to have a holiday and take people directly to Sea God Island. He didn't believe that Sea God Island could not have such a thing. No, the abacus is almost hitting Jin Renayu's face, and Jin Renayu still doesn't know what he means. No, she refused out loud. Why not? Guangling asked Jin Renayu. Grandpa Guangling, have you forgotten that I still haven't completed the test of kindness? Oh, after hearing this, Guangling suddenly realized that, to be honest, he had really forgotten. After thinking for a while, he said, Xiao Wu, you are still just a soul master right now. Yeah, Jin Renayu nodded. Her level has improved relatively quickly. This time, she has increased to level 36 after the battle. If she absorbs another fairy grass, there is a high probability that she can break through 40. However, she feels that the level is not the key. There is only one soul skill difference between 30 and 40. Her opponent's soul beast is not easy to find. But it was too late now that Guangling could no longer be left behind. Jin Renayu simply told Chen Xin's story. At worst, the two of them would go to the Cabello Glazed sect as guests. By the way, Grandpa Guangling, there is something I want to tell you, Jin Renayu said. What's up? Guangling asked. He looked at Jin Renayu, and the two looked at each other. Jin Renayu said straightly, that's right, I met a master a few days ago, so this time I'm on vacation, I have to go to him, and then, go and complete the test of kindness. In front of Guangling, Jin Renayu didn't want to beat around the bush. The two of them always played straight balls. Anyway, they both liked to cut first and play later, and there was nothing to bend around. When hearing what Jin Renayu said, Guangling was stunned for several seconds, and he just looked at Jin Renayu like this, as if trying to turn his mind quickly after a long time. He spit out a sentence. What the hell? Master? Someone from outside? No, Xiao Wu, what's wrong with me? Why do you accept someone from outside as your master? Who is the master you recognize? I need to spend a good time with him. Zhao, if he can't beat me, then he's not qualified to be your master. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. Knowing that Guangling had this reaction, Jin Renayu let him finish speaking before speaking. Grandpa Guangling, his sword Douluo, named Chen Xin, sword. Guangling wanted to start scolding directly, but when the words came to his lips, he suddenly seemed to remember something. Wait a minute, Xiao Wu, who do you think is your master? Sword Douluo, Chen Xin, Jin Renayu repeated in her heart. If Guangling insisted on fighting Chen Xin, then it was not impossible. Anyway, she feasted her eyes, and there was no harm to her. No, Xiao Wu, how do you know that guy? Guangling frowned slightly, but he hadn't seen her for a month. How could his little Yue be abducted by that old man Chen Xin? It was really a mistake, God knows there will be some bad old man who will abduct his family's children. I got lost once and I happened to meet him, Jin Renai answered concisely, and she didn't want to be too detailed, otherwise, Guangling would probably volunteer to teach her archery or something. After all, there was a bow in her transformed weapon, and Guangling was a bow player. If Guangling knew the whole story and didn't clamor to teach her archery, she wouldn't believe Jin. Gone. Seeing that Jin Renai had nothing to say, Guangling was puzzled. Just simply meet someone when you get lost, and then take on a disciple. Who is this deceiving? Xiao Wu, tell the truth, you can't deceive me, Guangling asked anxiously. What's the matter with his little Yu? How come she has learned to fool people after not seeing her for a month? Of course it's not that simple, Jin Renai fiddled with a teacup on the lower table and said, it's because he thought I had a talent for swordsmanship, so he wanted to take me in as his apprentice, and then, I think there's nothing wrong with having multiple masters. Well, after all, the other party is also a titled Douluo, maybe I can really learn the essence from him. For me, there are only advantages and no disadvantages, not to mention that the test of kindness is imminent, so I have to think of a way. That's it. Guangling thought it was some kind of romance, so it was just this. He snorted softly and said with some dissatisfaction, then I also said that you have a talent for bow learning. Isn't it the same for you to practice bow learning with me? Moreover, my level is higher than him, so you will have more dignity. Up, Jin Renai froze immediately. Can all this be related to her Zigong? Moreover, what does it mean to have more face? Is she the kind of person who cares about face? If she really cared, why didn't she spread the word that Jin Douluo was her grandfather? Really? Stop, Grandpa Guangling. Jin Renai raised her hand and said, I really want to learn the bow too, but the Nether Flower Emperor is not suitable for fighting with a bow, so Grandpa Guangling, this bow may have to wait a while. It takes time to learn. The most urgent thing is to get this kindness test first, okay? In order to keep Guangling from getting entangled, Jin Renai had no choice but to say that she wanted to learn the bow. Oh no, it wasn't against her will, it was because she would get a bow in the first place, and she would have to let Guangling teach it when the time came. After hearing Jin Renai's words, Guangling also felt that it made sense, although the title of master was taken by Chen Xin. Fortunately, Xiao Wu was not completely abducted by Chen Xin. She definitely prefers to learn bows. Now she is going to learn swords simply to solve the 5. The Nian Yaoming Huahuang is just that. It must be like this. Absolutely. After some self-guided strategies, Guangling's mood obviously improved a lot. In that case, the old man will take you directly to the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. In order to ensure your personal safety, the old man must accompany you, so as not to let that boy Chen Xin give you a hand. What bad thoughts are instilled? After Jin Renai heard this, the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. It can be seen that he is really anxious. What's the matter, can't you? Seeing that Jin Renai's face changed a little bit, Guangling thought she didn't want him to follow her, so she immediately put on an innocent look. Those big watery eyes inevitably made the corners of Jin Renai's mouth twitch again. It turns out that title Douluo is also cute. Looking back, Jin Renai coughed lightly, and she said solemnly, nothing. If you want to go with Grandpa Guangling, then go together. But, you ran out secretly. I'm afraid Grandpa will send someone to take you back. No, Guangling patted his chest and said, I have already told the 3rd brother and the 4th brother that whenever the eldest brother asks about his whereabouts, he will tell me that I have gone to the far north to find soul beasts for you. I still don't believe that the eldest brother can run to the extreme north to arrest people. Oh, dare you use her as a shield? Jin Renai was sweating slightly. Then it's really going to go. I really went. Guangling didn't think about this possibility either. He felt that if the eldest brother really took it seriously, the 3rd and 4th brothers would probably betray him. Don't worry about him, Xiao Wu. You still have other things you can't do. If you don't have any, let's go directly to the 7 treasure glazed tile school to find your cheap master. To be honest, the 7 treasures glazed tile school is indeed a good place. If he stayed in the 7 treasures glazed tile school, Jin Douluo would naturally not be able to find him. He didn't want to be betrayed by the 3rd and 4th brothers and then be caught by Jin Douluo. What is her cheap master? She has not long worshipped as a master, but she has endured a lot of things, which is really difficult. Jin Renai didn't say anything to Master Xianyu. She said, I have to go and tell Teacher Qin Ming, Grandpa Guangling, please wait here for me for a while. When everything is settled, we can go together again. Go to the Cabello glazed sect. Okay, Guangling nodded, and didn't ask too much. His mind was so full of dust that he had no time to think about other things. Seeing this, Jin Renai shook her head, she sighed lightly, and left the luxury box. Guangling's reaction was really what she expected. On the way, Jin Renai raised her mouth slightly, not knowing what she was thinking. In the lounge, Yu Xianheng and the others recovered quickly under the treatment of the healing soul master and Yi Lingling. The reason why they hadn't left yet was because they were waiting for Jin Renai. Crunch! The door of the lounge was pushed open, and Yu Feng rushed towards Jin Renai without hesitation. Sister Yu, you are finally back. Seeing the little bird that was rushing towards her, Jin Renai hurriedly dodged sideways. Yu Xianheng pulled her aside and sent her directly into Du Yuyan's arms. Oh, Yu Feng rushed to nothing, his face full of grievances. Boss, you are biased. I'm just biased. What's wrong? Yu Xianheng retorted mercilessly. He didn't know what Yu Feng was thinking. He usually knew how to cheat him, so he really pretended that he didn't know. After being retorted by Yu Xianheng, Yu Feng simply chose to shut up. He pouted and could only mutter in his heart that Sister Yanzi liked Yu more. Putting into Du Yuyan's arms, Jin Renai of course liked it. She hugged Du Yuyan. She was very happy. Sister Yanzi, hey, Yu, I didn't expect Yu Xianheng to send someone directly into her arms. She smiled and hugged Jin Renai without saying anything. Seeing that the relationship between these children was so good, Qin Ming felt relieved. Okay, Yu, since you are back, from now on, you will have a month off. After 1 month, remember to go back to school. Good, Jin Renai replied with a smile. The other people nodded and didn't look very happy. Qin Ming nodded and left the lounge. After Qin Ming left, Yu Feng let himself go. Sister Yu, where are you going to play during the holiday? Do you want to visit the old man's house? Brother Xianheng, is he going to invite us to play at home? Jin Renai looked at Yu Xianheng subconsciously, and Yu Xianheng picked up a pack of snacks and smashed Yu Feng's face. He grinned at Yu Feng, and when he looked at Jin Renai again, he recovered. Good brother's gentle face. He's talking nonsense, but if you want to go, you can. Yu Feng. 6. Face-changing master. Right, end of this chapter. Chapter 56. Yumi, I'm tired of acting. Although there was an invitation from Yu Xianheng, Jin Renai really didn't have time to go to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect this month. She declined the invitation with a smile, saying that she had important things to do this month, and Du Yuyan also knew that Jin Renai wanted to kill the 5-year-old soul beast, so in order to excuse Jin Renai, she made an appointment with Yu Xianheng for this whole month, not leaving a single day for anyone else. Yu Xianheng felt that he was being plotted, but since he had no evidence, he could only let the two of them discuss it. Several people walked out of the lounge together. Jin Renai originally wanted to part ways with him, but by chance, the 8 of them met the Shrek 7 monsters, Uzaya Gang, Flender and Qin Ming. When seeing Qin Ming, Yu Xianheng and the others were a little surprised, and Jin Renai followed Du Yuyan, also pretending to be surprised. Teacher Qin Ming knows them, she secretly whispered in Du Yuyan's ear. Du Yuyan frowned slightly. For some reason, she suddenly understood why Qin Ming didn't let her start releasing the green-scaled snake venom. Dare to have something to do? Teacher Qin Ming, Yu Xianheng bowed politely. Although he was also surprised why Qin Ming was with Shrek's people, he still had to be polite when looking at Uzaya Gang. Yu Xianheng's face was a little complicated, but he didn't say anything. Qin Ming nodded slightly. Xianheng, don't you know this master? He raised his palm and pointed at Uzaya Gang. Looking at Yu Xianheng's face, it didn't look like he didn't know him, but why did he pretend not to know him? Yu Xianheng didn't answer. His face looked a little complicated, and he didn't know why. Master, your surname is Yu, and brother Tianheng is also surnamed Yu. Are you two related? Although she didn't know why Yu Xianheng looked so uncomfortable, Jin Renai still spoke to help him out. Jin Renai blinked her eyes with deep doubts in her big eyes. But master, brother Xianheng is the young master of the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus sect. His martial spirit is the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus, and your martial spirit is just an animal that looks like both a dog and a pig. How can you be a relative of brother Tianheng? The innocent words asked deeply hurt Uzaya Gang's heart. He frowned slightly and didn't know what to say. For a moment the mutation of his martial soul was a pain in his life. Because of this mutation, his innate soul power was half a level, so he was expelled from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. Even in his middle age, he had not yet broken through level. This was different from his original clan background. For him, it is simply a lifelong pain point, and he never expected that today Jin Renai would use his pain points to publicly execute him. If he cares about it, it seems that he has no taste. If he doesn't care, he can only smash it into pieces. Yingaya swallowed. Tisk. Damn, pride made Yu Xiaogang clenched his fists. He gritted his teeth and lowered his eyes, looking a little angry. Flanders and Yu Xiaogang have known each other for so many years, but they still don't know what his pain point is. Now Jinrinai is really sharp-tongued when she says these weird words in front of so many juniors. Although he was a little unhappy, Jinrinai was not his student after all. If he tried to teach him a lesson, he would probably cause a deeper misunderstanding. What's more, Jinrinai didn't seem to know Yu Xiaogang's pain. People, maybe, she just expressed her own doubts. Yu, why are you talking? Qin Ming frowned and lectured, but his tone was very gentle. Jinrinai shut up obediently. She covered her mouth with her hands and blinked her big eyes. She looked extremely cute. Under this cute appearance, she whispered in a low voice, "Why don't you say anything anymore? I said it, it's obviously all true. Du Yuyan is right behind Yu Xianheng, and Jinrinai is next to Du Yuyan." These words undoubtedly made Yu Xianheng listen. Yu Xianheng had no idea in his heart, but now that he has mentioned this, when you should salute, you still have to salute, uncle. Yu Xianheng bowed and showed great respect. Uncle. Jinrinai opened her eyes wide again. Brother Xianheng, are you really related? As soon as these words came out, the scene became silent again. Tisk, Yu, Qin Ming called warmly, and he signaled Jinrinai not to speak. Jinrinai subconsciously covered her mouth. She looked at Qin Ming with her big eyes. Her eyes seemed to say that she didn't mean it. Qin Ming shook his head. Naturally, he didn't want to argue with her. She was just a 10-year-old child. It was normal to be naive, but, as if thinking of something, Qin Ming looked at Jinrinai subconsciously. How could she know what Master Yu's martial spirit was? Well, Xianheng, long time no see. After Jinrinai shut up, Yu Xiaogang adjusted his mentality before he responded to Yu Xianheng's words in a low voice. He stepped forward to help Yu Xianheng, who was bowing, and also looked at this nephew who had not seen for many years. Yu Xianheng's appearance was somewhat similar to that of when he was young. Looking at Yu Xianheng, a trace of memory appeared in his eyes. If his martial spirit had not mutated, if he was a purebred blue electric tyrant Rex martial spirit, maybe not on the first place. Yu Xiaogang was a little sad, but the sadness didn't last long. He looked away, and finally his eyes fell on Jinrinai. Are you Xiao? From the moment Jinrinai revealed his martial spirit, he was convinced that this child named Jinrinai was the original Tang Yue. He had shown his martial spirit in front of Tang Yue, but he had never shown his martial spirit in front of Jinrinai. If Jinrinai knew about it, it proved that she was Tang Yue. Who are you? Jinrinai refuses to recognize her. As long as she doesn't admit that she is Tang Yue, who can turn her into Tang Yue? Little San has always missed you, don't you miss him? Yu Xiaogang played a relative card. He didn't believe that Tang Yue, who was so attached to Tang San at the beginning, would not react at all to Tang San. Even if she hated Tang San for not choosing to save her, Tang Yue was an emotional person. In terms of family ties, there was no way she could act indifferent. Why should I miss him? Jinrinai said calmly. Who is the mistress? Is it him? Pointing at Tang San. Tang San was slightly startled. Jinrinai's attitude clearly meant that she didn't want to recognize him. A complicated expression appeared on his face, and Tang San didn't look for trouble. After so many things happened, he didn't expect Jinrinai to recognize him. It was indeed his negligence at the beginning, and Jinrinai hated him, too. Before Yu Xiaogang could speak, Jinrinai said again, the name Xiaoyan is really strange. You guys keep calling him Xiaoyan, which makes him seem like a third party. Yu. When Jinrinai opened her mouth, she meant to offend others. Qin Ming quickly stopped her. How did you say that? He frowned slightly, wishing Jinrinai would stop talking. Jinrinai pouted, not wanting to talk to Qin Ming. She purposely lowered her voice and muttered, it's the truth. Why don't people say it? This is freedom of speech. Okay. The voice was lowered just enough for everyone present to hear. The aggrieved voice made people unable to bear to blame her for what she said. Knowing that Jinrinai was pretending, Zhu Xiuqing almost laughed out loud. She clenched her lips tightly and tried her best to restrain her smile. When Ning Rongrong saw this, he also felt strange. Zhu Xiuqing, who had always been cold, looked like he was about to laugh at this time. Is it funny? It seems. It's kind of funny, to be honest. When Jinrinai was talking about Yu Xiaogang, she almost laughed out loud. If it weren't for being impolite, she would really be a little bit overwhelmed. When Jinrinai said this, Yu Xiaogang was dumbfounded. His current state was that he could not let out the breath in his throat, and it was uncomfortable to keep holding it in. Okay, master, if you have anything to say to Tianheng, please find a place to chat. Seeing that the atmosphere was extremely awkward, Qin decided to come out to smooth things over. He was a gentle person, so he also had lovable attributes. As long as he spoke up, almost neither party would say anything serious. No need, we still have some things to do, so let's not get over it. Being so angry by Jinrinyu, Yu Xiaogang couldn't be in the mood to chat. He waved his hand, just wanting to send away this eloquent child. Jinrinyu Qin also understood what he meant. He signaled to Yu Xianheng and the others that they could leave. Yu Xianheng didn't say anything and just walked around them and left. As they passed each other, Jinrinyu tilted her head and glanced at Zhu Xiuqing. She winked at Zhu Xiuqing, and Zhu Xiuqing glanced back at her. The little witch Ning Rongrong noticed all their little actions and looks. In eyes, Ning Rongrong didn't say anything, but she was sure in her heart that there was definitely something going on between Zhu Xiuqing and Jinrinyu. Zhu Xiuqing's soul power level breakthrough was most likely related to Jinrinyu. She pursed her lips and decided, I need to have a good chat with Zhu Xiuqing later, otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for her to be the only one left behind in the entire team. After the Huangdao team left, Daimube became angry. This Jinrinyu is too rude. Others are silent. Although what Jinrinyu said was impolite, it seemed to be telling the truth. On the way to the luxury box, Jinrinyu met Ning Fengzi and Chen Xin, who had not yet left. Ning Fengzi is gentle and elegant, with a pure heart and a gentle heart. These two conspicuous handsome guys are in front of Jinrinyu. It is impossible for Jinrinyu to ignore them, but to be honest, she doesn't really want to see these two people here now. Master? Why are you here? Although she thought so in her heart, her body was very honest. Jinrinyu obediently went up to salute. She was very surprised, just like she was surprised by Yu Xiaogang just now. Chen Xin was happy to see Jinrinyu. He smiled lightly, went up to touch Jinrinyu's head, and then he introduced the people beside him. Xiao, Master, there is someone I want to introduce to you. I know, this is the head of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile School, Ning Fengzi. Ning Fengzi smiled at Jinrinyu, who bowed politely. Sect Master Ning. Ning Fengzi helped her up and said in a very gentle tone, Xiao, there is no need to be polite. You are Uncle Jian's apprentice and you are about the same age as Rongrong. From now on, you can call me Uncle Ning. Oh, okay, Uncle Ning. Jinrinyu nodded, and called softly, trying to make herself look a little dazed. To be honest, she was really tired from acting today. If she had known better, she would not have talked nonsense with Yu Xiaogang and the others when she went out. By the way, Yu, I heard that you guys are on vacation starting today. Do you have any plans for this vacation? Chen Xin asked, and it was obvious that he wanted Jinrinyu to go to the Kibao Glazed sect with him. After all, Jinrinyu is also his apprentice, so he can't be outside all day long. How can he teach outside? Would that be equivalent to accepting an empty disciple? Really? Have? Jinrinyu replied that she had long thought that Chen Xin would ask her to go to the Kibao Glazed sect. Now she can only say that the two hit it off. But there is one more variable. Guangling, I'm going to find the master. Jinrinyu frowned and smiled, looking extraordinarily innocent. Well, that's just right. I plan to teach you something as a teacher. Chen Xin responded with a smile. He couldn't help but pinch Jinrinyu's baby fat face. The two masters and apprentices loved each other very much. Yes, thank you very much, master. Although Jinrinyu had a smile on her face, she really wanted to escape. If she didn't go back to the box, the guy inside would run out to look for her. If he saw this scene, God knows what would happen. Yes, master, I have to go back and pack my things. I will go directly to the sect to find you in 2 days. Okay, adhering to the principle of never letting Guangling get angry, Jinrinyu could only fool his cheap master. Okay, alright, Chen Xin nodded, and Ning Fengzi looked at Jinrinyu with a smile. His thoughts were very delicate. In his eyes, Jinrinyu did look very lovable, but he always felt that this was not the real Jinrinyu. Renyu, perhaps, is half real, half unreal. In short, this child is by no means as simple as he seems. After bidding farewell to Chen Xin and Ning Fengzi, Jinrinyu quickly went to find Guangling. The persona she set up in front of Chen Xin was a fool. If she, Chen Xin, and Guangling were to stay together in the future, God knows what will happen. Thinking of what would happen in a few days, Jinrinyu felt a headache. I am so exhausted from acting. Ugh, she sighed deeply, and a very excited male voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Sister Yu, end of this chapter. Chapter 57 Heading to Coconut Grove City. The word Sister Yue was deafening. Jinru Nai followed the voice, and the person who came was the defeated general. Liu Tian ran towards Jinru Nai with a smile on his face. It was not difficult to see that he was really happy, but human beings' sorrows and joys are not interlinked. Just sent away Ningfengzi and Chenzin. Now another one came. Originally tired Jinru Nai's complexion became even worse. She skillfully dodged Liu Tian, who was rushing towards her, patted her clothes and frowned coldly. What are you doing? Do you want to fight? Obviously, Jinru Nai didn't know that Liu Tian had become her little fanboy, and even surpassed the fan group formed by Yu Fang for a time. Oh, Sister Yue, what you said is so ugly. I'm here to congratulate you from the bottom of my heart. How can I get into a fight? You are so cute. How could I be willing to beat you? Liu Tian's appearance can be regarded as a relatively clear and handsome boy, but at this time he is smiling like a flower, and speaking more ambiguous words, which makes people feel a little wretched. The slightly cold breath hit. Jinru Nai took a few steps back subconsciously, just wanting to distance herself from Liu Tian. After all, she couldn't guarantee whether Liu Tian would be beaten later. Oh Sister Yue, you won a big victory this time. Do you plan to hold a celebration banquet? Liu Tian didn't care about Jinru Nai's backing movement at all. He leaned forward to show that he was not a bad person, who knew when Jinru Nai wanted to remind him not to get close to her. A white fist greeted Liu Tian's face. The fist was cold and sent Liu Tian flying hundreds of meters away. Liu Tian screamed, and then the pink roses he prepared for Jinru Nai and some miniature snack bags fell from the air. In a long corridor, Liu Tian was directly hit to a dead corner, and the wall was hit by Liu Tian. A few cracks appeared, and if nothing else happened, someone was going to be unlucky. Grandpa Guangling. Jinru Nai looked at the gray-robed man who suddenly appeared in front of her, and couldn't help calling softly, "Let's go first." She suggested private fighting is not allowed in the Xiao Great Soul Arena. In order to avoid accidents, Jinru Nai thought it would be better to leave first. As for Liu Tian, he can only be the seed of injustice at this moment. When there is a chance in the future, let her make it up to him. Guangling glanced coldly at Liu Tian, who was in the distance, and he snorted softly, daring to be tempted by his little cabbage. He really didn't want to die. The two left the Xiao Great Soul Arena in a flash. After a while, Liu Tian was carried away by the person in charge of the Soul Arena. There was a crack in the wall, and now there was no second person to be found, so the one who lost money had to. It could be Liu Tian. Liu Tian, shut down Q. After leaving the Xiao Great Soul Arena, Jinru Nai didn't fly towards Kibao City, and she didn't know what was going on in her mind. She didn't say a word, but it made Guangling, who was following her, feel a little not quite right. Xiao Wu, why don't you go directly to the Kibao glazed sect now? On the way, Guangling couldn't help but wonder. To be honest, he was a little suspicious that this girl would sell him out, so now, he had to ask her where she was going, otherwise she would be tricked into returning to Wuhan City. That would be bad luck. Guangling's question came to her ears, and Jinru Nai didn't answer immediately. She thought briefly and said, "Well, Grandpa Guangling, I specifically told my chief master to wait 2 days before going. Son, I'm going to find some delicious food first." Looking for something delicious? Guangling blinked. Where can I find delicious food? Do you want me to take you to the food city? Food city. Jinru Nai's eyes lit up, and she stopped her wings suddenly. Which direction are you going? During this period of time, she was tired of eating the school's standard food at Xiao Royal Academy. Although it was much better than when she was in Shrek, it was not her favorite food after all, so she didn't eat too much. After finally taking a vacation, she must reward her stomach well. Hey, immediately hitting Jinru Nai's mind, Guangling felt proud. He moved to Jinru Nai's side and said, "It's a good place in Coconut Grove City. Xiao Yu, come with me." Bar, Coconut Grove City. Jinru Nai thought the name sounded familiar. She squinted her eyes and smiled, then turned her head to look at Guangling. "If there is no delicious food, I will be angry. It's absolutely impossible." Guangling vowed, "You still don't know who I am. Although I'm not reliable when it comes to serious business, I'm extremely reliable when it comes to eating, drinking and having fun. Besides, when have I ever lied to you?" Saying that, Guangling flew to the other side of Jinru Nai to look at her. I have to say that Xiao Yu has changed a lot since she picked it up. This fair little face and delicate facial features, it's a far cry from when we first met. Sure enough, children still have to spend money to raise them well. PFFT, Jinru Nai lowered her eyes and chuckled. It was the first time she had heard someone say that she was unreliable in doing business. Although Guangling's words were fine, "Don't laugh, the old man can see it." "Okay." Guangling stared at Jin Renai with his eyes, pouted his lips a little unhappy, he puffed up his cheeks, and he was still like a child. "Ha ha ha." Jin Renai laughed, subconsciously reached out and pinched Guangling's tender, baby-like face. Okay, Grandpa Guangling, I just think there are delicious things to eat, that's why I'm happy, I'm not laughing at you. Don't think too much, haha, so rude." Guangling turned his head arrogantly, he crossed his arms, and looked angry, but in fact, although he was raped by Jin Renai, from the bottom of his heart, he didn't feel disgusted. At least this proved that Jin Renai was really treat him as one of your own. Jin Renai is also very happy. She thinks that Guangling's skin is really good. She didn't expect that as a titled Douluo who only knows how to eat, drink and have fun, she can also be good at skincare. This is much better than Golden Crocodile Douluo. "Oh, okay, Grandpa Guangling, don't be angry, let's go. I haven't eaten anything I want for a month, now I'm hungry." Jin Renai immediately took Guangling's arm and shook it coquettishly, regardless of whether it was beneficial or not. When he saw Jin Renai acting coquettishly for the first time, Guangling also wanted to enjoy it a little longer. He deliberately suppressed his excitement and pretended to be sulky, just because he just wanted Jin Renai to say more nice things to him. Grandpa Guangling, seeing that acting coquettishly didn't work, Jin Renai strengthened it a little more. She purposely prolonged her voice, and then suddenly choked it up. "Use hand, stop, Xiao Wu, be normal and speak well. Who can stand this kind of smugness?" Guangling is a straight man, he can't stand this kind of tone at all. "Really? I can't stand it at all." PFFT. Seeing the disgusted expression on Guangling's face, Jin Renai also found a way to control him. She put away her smile and replied calmly, "Oh. Let's go then." Looking at Guangling with sly eyes, Guangling always felt that he was being targeted by a man-eating fox. His body couldn't help trembling, he just thought that the normal Jin Renai was a little cuter. "Let's go, the old man will take you there." Guangling stretched out her hand, the two of them looked at each other, and instantly understood what the other was thinking. Jin Renai smiled knowingly, she took Guangling's hand, and the two of them soared into the sky, one white and one blue wings crossed in the air. Scratch marks, a series of beautiful arcs from top to bottom, as bright as shooting stars, blooming the most gorgeous fireworks in the clouds. Wuhan City, Wuhan Nine-Petal Palace. In the cold and empty hall, a woman with lavender long hair peacefully closed her eyes and rested. Her white fingers tapped on the throne beneath her, as if she was thinking about something. At this time, a ghost shadow suddenly rushed into the hall, bringing a gust of cool wind. It transformed into a human in the hall, dressed in black, half bowed, especially respectful. "Your Majesty the Pope." "Well, what's the matter?" the woman on the high seat responded in a low voice. Although her voice was soft, it gave off a strong sense of oppression in this quiet environment. "The ghost shadow in the hall is Ghost Douluo. Ghost some time ago, Bibidong sent him to investigate Jin Renai's life experience. There is no doubt that he also found out the same information as Snake Spear Douluo. When Bibidong learned that Jin Renai was Tang Hao's adopted daughter, she seemed to be more interested in Jin Renai, so she asked Tulina to approach Jin Renai, and Ghost was sent out again. Investigate further information, and even watch Jin Renai's every move from afar. "Your Majesty, Guangling Douluo is beside the second lady, and his subordinates cannot approach her," Ghost replied truthfully. These days, he has been staring at Jin Renai, but he didn't find anything unusual. The only abnormality was, thinking of this, Gui Mei's eyes drooped, and he didn't dare to look at Bibidong squarely. On the night before the start of the Xiandao Great Soul Arena team match, he saw Yuguan, who was going to meet Jin Renai alone. At that time, he really wanted to stop Yuguan to inquire, but because Bibidong asked him to do this in private, he couldn't open the skylight to talk to Yuguan. After that, he also asked Yuguan and Kainren from the side. "What is the relationship between you?" Yuguan was vague, which made Ghost even more suspicious, but adhering to the principle of not betraying his good brother, he didn't tell Bibidong about it. However, the ghost's answer was also within Bibidong's expectations, and seeing Bibidong stretching her legs, she could see her slender legs unobstructed. She slowly opened her eyes and said, "You don't have to follow, Elder Ghost, leave this matter to Nana can do it, and in addition, find out the list of the 10-year-old Blue Silver Emperor Soul Masters who followed the previous Pope and give me a copy, I need it." The list of Soul Masters who followed Chihiroji to capture the 10-year-old Blue Silver Emperor? Ghost was slightly taken aback. Yes, although she didn't know what Bibi Dong was going to do, Ghost always felt a little strange. What do you want this list to do at this time? Moreover, the soul masters who followed Chihiroji were basically beaten to death by Tang Hao. Even if some of them came back, they didn't live long, and they all passed away due to serious injuries. I don't know, why did she suddenly ask for this list? Could it be that Jinri Niu's background is related to this list? Go back. After Bibi Dong gave the order, the ghost didn't dare to wait any longer. He bowed and then left the Pope's palace. After leaving the Pope's palace, Gimli went to clean up the list of soul masters. Back then when Jin's Unji captured the 10-year-old soul beast to be safe, he brought a lot of people. Although titled Douluo only brought him and Yuguan, there were quite a few Soul Douluo and Soul Emperor. The list that Bibi Dong wants is probably also the group of Soul Emperors, he and Yuguan. Forget it. However, when he thought about going to meet Jinri Niu alone that night at Yuguan, he felt a little strange. This matter took root in his heart, and he always felt that he was the one who was kept in the Dark Hall of Valor. This is a temple built to pay homage to the dead. It is built in the northernmost part of Wuhan Palace. The building is not big or small, but it is full of coldness. Ghost stood in front of the hall. Even though the sun was shining, he still couldn't feel any warmth. The soul masters who died in battle over the years will set a tablet and send it to the Hall of Valor, and the soul master who died with Chihiroji to capture the 10-year-old Blue-Silver Emperor is no exception. Crunch. Ghost pushed open the palace door, and the gloomy coolness hit him. His body couldn't help shaking. To be honest, although he was a ghost shadow, he didn't like coming to this place very much. If it wasn't because he couldn't remember how many people there were, he wouldn't have come to this ghost place himself. Of course, this place is not accessible to ordinary people, only elders and above can enter, so even if you don't want to come to this ghostly place, ghosts can only come in person in the Hall of Heroes. Hundreds of memorial tablets were enshrined, and the dim candlelight flickered gently, making the inside even more gloomy. The ghost was speechless for a moment. He shook his head slightly and quickly got down to business. Fortunately, no one had died in the war in the past few years, so the ghost didn't put much effort into finding those tablets. He used a notebook and a pen to record the names of those people, and it took about 10 minutes to reach the last one. However, when he saw the last tablet, the pen in his hand suddenly paused. Did this guy die from serious injuries? On the tablet, there is a man named Zuanling. This man has a ghostly impression. He is a controlled type soul master with very strong mental power. But when he captured the 10-year-old Blue-Silver Emperor, he did not make a move. Moreover, he was not seriously injured by Tang Hao. Why did he die from serious injuries in the Hall of Valor? Gui Mei frowned slightly. Always feeling that something was wrong. Is he remembering wrongly? Then what? After so many years, the ghost has a deep impression on Tang Hao, and there are few other things. He was silent for a long time, thinking that he had made a mistake, and then copied Zuanling's memorial tablet in the notebook. After finishing all this, the ghost quietly left the Hall of Valor, and he sent the copied list to the Pope's palace. At the last moment, her eyes suddenly opened, as if recalling something. End of this chapter. Chapter 58. When you get angry, you have to coax yourself. It was already night when Guangling and Jinri Niu arrived at Coconut Grove City, and when they landed together, Jinri Niu was immediately attracted by the brightly lit and bustling scene in front of him. Although Coconut Grove City is not big, it has always been lively, so it can be considered a small town. Pedestrians were coming and going on the street, boys were shouting and hawking, restaurants and inns were all available, and the stalls on the street corners were filled with all kinds of gadgets and performers. It looked very prosperous. Jinri Niu and Guangling walked among the crowd, and she looked at the shops on both sides of the street with curiosity in her eyes. Xiao Wu, don't you want to eat delicious food? Come on, I will take you there. Guangling kept what Jinri Niu said in his heart, and didn't care if Jinri Niu changed his mind now. Anyway, he must take someone to eat something delicious, otherwise, this girl will be hungry again after a while. The same as when we first met. You can put the food behind you, Grandpa Guangling. Let's go shopping first. As soon as she saw the bustling city, Jinri Niu lost much interest in eating. She personally prefers to go shopping, so when she was in Greenwood Town, Lingyun was tortured by her. Haven't seen it either. In Lingyun's words, it is, only 5 priests would like to walk around the whole city for 5 or 6 hours. But didn't you say you wanted to find something delicious? Guangling asked. Yes, but now I have changed my mind. Grandpa Guangling, are you hungry? Jinri Niu asked back. Guangling was speechless. Sure enough, a woman's heart is needled, regardless of age. Okay, Jinru tilted her head and stared at Guangling with her big different pupils. Her eyes are very clear. Although there are no whirlpools in them, they are better than whirlpools. Just one glance can make people feel like they are trapped deep in them. Guangling looked at her, but he was sucked in by this vortex. He snorted, stretched out his hand and flicked Jinru's smooth forehead. You are really fickle. The tone was neither salty nor bland, and it was hard to tell why. Humph, Guangling's hand wasn't heavy, it was just a flick. Jinru didn't notice any pain, but it still didn't affect her with her hands on her hips and frown. Don't you know that women are fickle creatures? After saying that, she raised her head and put her face in front of Guangling. There is a huge difference in height between the two. Jinru is only about 1.5 meters tall now. Even if she stands on tiptoes and raises her head, she still can't reach Guangling's face. Ha ha ha, I don't know why. Looking at this little girl like Jinru, Guangling smiled. In the past, he didn't care how tall this girl was, but now, she turned out to be a short winter melon. There was a slight smile in her eyes, and with just one glance, Jinru recognized that this was the look in Chen Xin's eyes when he saw her for the first time. Laughing at her height, Jinru immediately pulled her face down. She frowned slightly, and pouted. Don't laugh, she gasped. Although I know that I am a dwarf, I can't blame her. She has been malnourished since she was a child, so it is not bad to grow so tall. Moreover, she is only 10 years old now, so she will still grow well in the future? Thinking of this, Jinru's resentment became heavier and heavier. Ha ha ha, seeing Jinru understood his eyes. Guangling's laughter became clearer and clearer. He reached out and touched Jinru's head, and had to say, this little girl is really short. Jinru was speechless, with a black face. To be honest, if she could beat Guangling now, she would definitely throw the old man to the ground over her shoulder. Stop laughing. Staring at Guangling with a face full of resentment, Guangling saw that the person in front of him was really a little angry, so he hurriedly admitted defeat. Okay, don't laugh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. Xiao Wu, what do you want to do? How about I just accompany you as compensation? Not so good, Jinru retorted angrily. She turned her head away and didn't want to talk to Guangling at all. Seeing this, Guangling's face froze. It's overdone. Xiao Wu is angry. What should I do? Guangling pursed his lips, still thinking that it would be better to end this topic quickly. Otherwise, if it continued like this, he felt that this girl would probably sell him out. Hey, Xiao Wu, there's a Guangling lantern over there. Do you want to put one? Looking left and right, Guangling finally made his mind on the small vendor selling Guangling lanterns not far away. He pointed to the Guangling lantern in the vendor's hand, and poked Jinru's shoulder again, only this time the poke was very light and careful, as if he was seeking Jinru's opinion. Jinru's shoulders shook and she snorted, a sky lantern just wants me to forget about it. Am I that easy to coax? Guangling blinked. Isn't this how children are coaxed? He remembered that this was how he coaxed Xiaoxu back then, and the elder brother coaxes Xiaoxu. Isn't that the same way? Why doesn't it apply to Xiao Wu? Is it because she is a short winter melon? Master, he is calling you a short winter melon. At this time, before Guangling had figured out how to coax Jinru, the little phoenix in Jinru's body suddenly burst out such a sentence. Guangling's silence was deafening. Jinru's eyes were like knives falling. What a short winter melon. You are the short winter melon. Seeing this, Guangling immediately refuted, but the object of this rebuttal was to Jinru. Jinru, are you polite? It was only after seeing the face of the person in front of him getting uglier that Guangling realized that the clown phoenix was inside Jinru's body. No, Xiao Wu, it's talking nonsense. The old man never said you are a short winter melon. After speaking, he swore an oath. He didn't say it, but he thought it in his heart. Little Phoenix added. Guangling was silent again this time. His face was dark, to be honest. If it weren't for the fact that this phoenix was in Jinru's body, he would really beat it up. And from Guangling's deafening silence, Jinru also got the answer. She said angrily, I will still grow, okay? After speaking, he glared at Guangling when facing Jinru. Guangling did not have a dark face. He said with a little helplessness, I know you will grow longer. Then you say I'm a short winter melon. If Jinru was angry at only 50.00% of her anger at the beginning, then now, under the attack of little Phoenix Dashi, her anger has risen to 70.00%. So he was still able to speak well, all because he couldn't beat Guangling. Guangling felt wronged, and he surrendered. I really never said that, and Xiao Wu, you are not short. You are almost on the shoulders of this old man. Back then, when Xiaoxu was your age. Wait, Xiaoxu seems it's more than that. Small story. Jinrinayu's height has always been criticized. After Guangling laughed at her, she would eat nutritious food every day in order to grow taller. Later, she finally grew to 167 centimeters, and she could reach 170 centimeters with high heels one day. Guangling called her as usual, "Little dwarf, come here, the old man bought you a pair of shoes, they are super beautiful." Jinrinayu held back her impatience and walked up to Guangling watching a troop. "Chenzin, someone is looking for a beating Gurong. I will never stop you, little phoenix." "Oh, beat, Jinringsu, whoa, small." Before Guangling could say anything, his Jinrinayu high heels stepped on his shoes, almost stepping on his flesh. Realizing that she had said something wrong, Guangling quickly explained with an awkward smile, and also stepped back. "Xiaoyu, listen to me. I just slipped of the tongue." Bang! Jinrinayu fell over his shoulder, and threw Guangling to the ground hard. In order not to let him get up, Jinrinayu immediately rushed to him again, and put her hand next to Guangling's head. "Who are you talking about?" "Well, Guangling." The bright and majestic facial features stood in front of Guangling, and a smile appeared on Guangling's face. He hugged Jinrinayu's slender waist, lifted his body up with his own waist strength, and touched Jinrinayu's red lips. "Of course it's about you, little man." Everyone in the troop, no see. After that day, Guangling couldn't get out of bed for a week. As for what happened, Jinringsu and the others kept tight-lipped and never mentioned it again. End of this chapter. Chapter 59. Jinrinayu's wish. Realizing that he was getting darker and darker, Guangling simply refused to explain. He directly took out his small treasury and handed it to Jinrinayu, saying grandly, "Xiaoyu, as long as you are not angry, you can do whatever you want today." "Okay, how can I make it?" Jinrinayu glanced at the small gold bag in Yanling's hand. It was bulging and probably contained a lot of gold soul coins. Of course, Guangling vowed, the old man keeps his word, but Xiaoyu, the premise is that you can't get angry, and you will get wrinkles when you get angry. That's not your fault. Jinrinayu snatched the small gold bag from Guangling's hand. She opened it and took a look. Sure enough, it was filled with the gold soul coins and gold leaves, which need to be converted. "You can even buy a sweet." "Okay, don't be angry if you don't get angry." Jinrinayu put away the small gold bag, and the gloom on her face was swept away. She raised her eyes, raised the corners of her mouth to Guangling, and smiled. "But Grandpa Guangling, I finally know why your skin is thicker than that of the golden crocodile." "Grandpa is fine." "Huh? Why?" Guangling raised her eyebrows and asked, "Why did this girl suddenly mention her second brother?" Jinrinayu snorted, with a sly look on her face, "Because you often make people angry, but you are very happy, so in the whole shrine, you have the best skin." For a moment, Guangling didn't know whether Jinrinayu was praising him or hurting him. He was silent, not knowing what to say. This girl has a really smart mouth. Fortunately, he was worried that she would be bullied by Jinringsu, and would rather run out to support her at the risk of being scolded. It seemed that he was really unnecessary. Seeing Guangling slumped, Jinrinayu was also in a good mood. She snorted softly, taking it as revenge. "Grandpa Guangling, don't you want to lead the way? Are you going to let me go shopping alone?" "Spend his money and ask him to lead the way." Guangling, "Xuan, what's the matter, don't you want to?" Jinrinayu narrowed her eyes slightly. She stared at Guangling. Although she could only raise her head, it still didn't affect her questioning eyes. Guangling lowered his eyes, helplessly. "Take the lead. The old man leads the way." "Can't the old man lead the way?" "Ha. Jinrinayu ruthlessly engraved back to Guangling the voice of Guangling laughing at her just now. She is a little vengeful ghost, and the grievances that can be resolved on the same day will never cross the sky. The two walked together. In the bustling market, Jinrinayu was running around. She was very interested in rare treasures. She would stop at some small stalls almost all the time. Although she seemed very interested in those things. "I like it, but I didn't actually pay for it. I just looked at it." Guangling followed her, originally wanting to ask Jinrinayu if she liked it, but Jinrinayu didn't give him this chance. Before Guangling could speak, she shifted her position and went to see something else. Guangling felt a little puzzled by this. Didn't he give all his money to this girl? Why does this girl still look so reluctant to part with it? She wasn't so reluctant when she bought those rabbit furs in a big way. Coconut Grove City may not be big or small, but there are many more ordinary civilians inside than soul masters. At night, with a bright moon in the sky, and under the star-studded sky. The houses with more ancient architecture look particularly beautiful. Jinru is running in the sky. On the long bridge, in front of her is a beautiful scenery dotted with Guangling lanterns. Behind her are countless children playing and playing. The children's faces are filled with happy smiles. They cross Qian Renyu, holding unlit hands. The Guangling lanterns go straight to their parents or grandparents. Looking at the peaceful scene in front of Jinru, she was also happy from the bottom of her heart. At some point, Guangling had already walked beside her. Use kind of joy, Xiao Wu, do you want to release the Guangling lantern? He withdrew his eyes and looked at Jinru at the side. Having experienced too many killings, Guangling's nature was not what Jinru saw in his eyes. He had also looked forward to such a peaceful scene and thought it was wonderful. However, when conflicts of interest arise between sects, when the two empires fought for sovereignty, everything here was nothing but a bubble, and the common people were just victims of the war. Well, go. Jinru subconsciously looked at Guangling, and the two looked at each other. Although Guangling was smiling, Jinru could see a hint of suffering in his eyes. Is it a delusion? Let's go then. Before he had time to confirm, Guangling put his hand on Jinru's shoulder, and Jinru was carried away by his arms. He wanted to ask, but he was really not sure if he was wrong, so he simply said, I didn't ask any more in such a beautiful atmosphere. If you ask something that is not beautiful, it will seem to spoil the atmosphere a bit. Thinking of this, Jinru chose to shut up, and she and Guangling bought a Guangling lantern, and then went to light the lights on the bridge where the lanterns were placed. The sky full of Guangling lanterns adorns the night sky with colorful colors. The lit lanterns sway in the wind, like flowing rivers of gold, illuminating the entire Coconut Grove city into a grotesque scene. What did you write on it? Guangling glanced at Jinru's Guangling lantern, and couldn't help asking. This girl deliberately avoided him when she was writing her wish on the Guangling lantern. He wanted to take a look but was glared at. He had no choice but to wait for Jinru to finish writing before asking, perhaps because she was afraid of being seen clearly. Jinru specially wrote the words on the inside. Even though Guangling could see her writing a series of words, but the words were flying and flying backwards, he really couldn't understand what Jinru wrote, and it was at this moment that he realized that this girl could be so ugly when writing. It's a wish, Jinru said mysteriously. It won't work if you express your wish. How can there be? Guangling retorted, instead of believing in the gods, Xiao Wu, you might as well trust the old man. Maybe the old man can fulfill this wish for you. Really? Jinru looked at him. The night wind blew lightly, and the hair around the former's ears was blown. In the cool wind, the wick in the Guangling lantern swayed gracefully, and the golden firelight in the sky shone down, fell into Jinru's pale pink eyes. Perhaps the scene here is really beautiful. Through Jinru's eyes, Guangling saw the prosperous scene supported by Guangling lanterns. His eyes moved slightly. I lost my mind for a while, Grandpa Guangling. Seeing that Guangling didn't answer, Jinru couldn't help but call out softly. Guangling gradually came back to his senses, and he looked at Jinru in astonishment. Just now, in Jinru's eyes, he seemed to see the scene he most wanted to see when he was a teenager. Boom! A bell sounded into Guangling's ears, and Jinru released the Guangling lantern. At this moment, Guangling suddenly heard the voice of the person beside him. I hope that one day, everyone will be equal. The mainland will enter a new society, there will be no aristocracy, and there will be no more wars. End of this chapter. Chapter 60. Are you the new jealous king in mainland China? The 2 days passed quickly, and Jinru got carried away with playing, so she didn't go back to pack her bags. She and Guangling flew to the 7 treasure glazed tile school together. It's not too good. Guangling didn't refute Jinru's suggestion this time. He disguised himself, hid his aura, and arrived at the 7 treasure glazed tile school with Jinru was a guard. The Kibao glazed sect is rich and powerful, and the sect's buildings are naturally among the most noble in the continent. The silver gate stands tall and majestic. There are several young disciples guarding the door. They are tall and tall, but their clothes are simple. At a glance, Jinru knew that he was an outer disciple of the Kibao glazed sect as the second sect in the mainland. Although the 7 treasures glazed tile sect is famous for its auxiliary martial souls, it also has outer disciples and inner disciples. Generally, inner disciples are direct disciples, that is, those who have awakened the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. And the disciples of the outer sect are almost a battle soul masters recruited by the sect. Is it Miss You? When the guards outside the sect saw Jinru stopping not far in front of them, they couldn't help but step forward and ask, knowing that Jinru would come today. Ning Fengzi had already greeted the guards outside. Even if Jin Renai didn't show Chen Xin's token, they would directly bring him into the 7 treasure glazed tile school. It's me. Jin Renai nodded. The guard's behavior was also expected by her, so she was not surprised in any way. "PLZ, follow me." The guard was respectful, but there was still a trace of doubt in his eyes when he looked at Guangling. Jin Renai explained, "This is my guard." Uncle Ning agreed. The guard nodded, thinking about Ning Fengzi's instructions. He didn't doubt anything, and just led the 2 of them to the main hall. The area covered by the 7 treasure glazed tile sect is larger than that of the Wuhan Hall. The buildings in the sect are a bit cold-toned, but a lot of flowers and plants are planted in each courtyard, which can be regarded as neutralizing the cool-toned buildings. "I feel how monotonous and cold it is here on the gravel path and clear running water." The guards led Jin Renai and Guangling across the bronze bridge. Jin Renai subconsciously admired the beautiful scenery inside the sect. She put her head next to Guangling, but her eyes remained there. On the lotus in the pond, "Grandpa Guangling, do you think that lotus is pretty and somewhat similar to my martial spirit?" Guangling glanced at the pond. "Of course, from a certain point of view, there is no difference between lotus and lotus. Your spirit is just different from them in color." "Great truth." Jin Renai pouted, and stopped talking to Guangling. The 2 were taken to the main hall of the sect by the guards. In the magnificent main hall, Ning Fengzi was sitting in a high position. He was touching the stick, with a gentle and elegant demeanor. With a smile on his face, he just watched Jin Renai's arrival. On the 2 sides, Chen Xin and Gu Rong stood on one side, and they, like Ning Fengzi, were watching Jin Renai and the man in gray robe behind her. "Master, Uncle Ning, Senior Bone Douluo." Jin Renai saluted respectfully, and the guard bowed and retreated after leading Jin Renai and Guangling in. Today Ning Fengzi deliberately screened all the servants away, so the inside and outside of the hall looked so empty and quiet. "Xiao Wu, don't be too polite." Ning Fengzi in the high position spoke softly. He looked at Jin Renai with a smile, and finally locked his eyes on Guangling. "Who is this, Uncle Ning?" "He is my bodyguard," Jin Renai replied without any trace. "I believe Uncle Ning knows that I am the second lady of Wuhandian. I couldn't handle it, so I asked him to accompany me, and I thought that Uncle Ning wouldn't be afraid of having an extra pair of chopsticks here, so I brought him here." As she said that, Jin Renai's tone became a bit coquettish. After Ning Fengzi listened, he laughed and said nothing. "Of course I'm not afraid of having an extra pair of chopsticks, Xiao Wu. Don't worry, Uncle Ning won't drive him away." As an old fox with deep experience in the world, doesn't Ning Fengzi know what Jin Renai's words mean? He has also verified Jin Renai's identity with Chen Xin in the past few days. He will not interfere with Chen Xin's decision, so in this regard, as long as Chen Xin has no objection, he will naturally have no objection either. "Yeah, thank you Uncle Ning." Jin Renai nodded and saluted again. Her mischievous appearance is very pleasing. Ning Fengzi subconsciously glanced at Chen Xin, only to see that Chen Xin's eyes looking at Jin Renai were much softer. Jin Renai on the hall pouted, and looked around. Although she had no other expression on her face, she was already roaring in her heart. "Yumi, I have to act again." After meeting Ning Fengzi, Chen Xin took Jin Renai to her yard. Gu Rong followed them, not knowing what to do. Chen Xin's courtyard is very simple and has everything in it. But nothing in it is too expensive, so it feels very suitable for a person with a pure heart and asceticism to live in. "Master, shall I live with you?" Jin Renai asked aloud, looking at this empty but not too empty place. There is a pear tree planted in the yard, but it is not the season for pear blossoms, so the tree looks a bit bare. Before Jin Renai could finish her words, Guangling beside her couldn't help but said, "How is it possible to live with him? Although you and he are masters and disciples, we still have to have some distance, so we can't live together. Have you forgotten what you're playing?" Jin Renai was speechless after hearing this. Chen Xin didn't say anything, but nodded in agreement. "You guard is right. Although you and I are masters and apprentices, you are still a little girl. If you live with me, you will inevitably fall into the trap." "That's right." Guangling didn't forget to add. Jin Renai was speechless. "Grandpa Guangling, you're still just that. What people are saying is obviously saying how you are. There are only a few of them in the whole yard. Who else can give an excuse?" "Gu Rong, Ning Fengzi, how can not be them? How about counting the money after selling it to someone? Really are outrageous." The 3 of them had their own thoughts, and Gu Rong was also busy stepping forward to smooth things over. He put Guangling's shoulders on his shoulders and said with a smile, "Hey, brother, don't worry. Fengzi has already prepared one for Xiao Wu. The new yard, what you are worried about, will not happen. Don't touch it." Guangling was about to explode, but found Jinrenai glaring at him suddenly. He moved his shoulders impatiently. Obviously he didn't want to have a good talk with Gurong. Seeing this, Jinrenai slapped her forehead helplessly, and before Gurong could speak, she explained, "Well, Master, Senior Bone Douluo, my guard has a bad temper. I need you to be more patient during this time." Have a bad temper? Gurong and Shenzhen looked at each other. What's wrong with this? Although he thought so in his heart, Gurong still said politely, "It's okay, if you have a bad temper, you have a bad temper, it's not a problem, after all, each has its own personality." "Yeah, thank you for your understanding, Senior," Jinrenai replied. Then, she glanced at Guangling, her eyes signaling, but Guangling pretended not to notice. He turned his head away, looking very arrogant. He will be angry because of an outsider staring at him, okay? Jinrenai was speechless. Seeing that Guangling didn't listen to her, she simply ignored him. When she looked away, she looked at Shenzhen. "Master," she called out with a smile. She was almost the same as Guangling just now. Guangling, resentment abounds at this time. The little phoenix in Jinrenai's body had been awake for a long time, and it quietly ate the melons of these two people, and did not forget to draw a number with its paws. 6. Shenzhen didn't know what happened to Jinrenai's guard, but for Jinrenai's sake, he didn't care too much, reached out and touched Jinrenai's head. Shenzhen said with a smile, "Little moon, do you want to start studying today, or tomorrow?" Jinrenai thought about it and said, "Let's do it today." Time was short and she couldn't waste precious time. "Okay. Then the first lesson I will teach you is swordsmanship." Master, please tell me." Unexpectedly, Jinrenai planned to start studying today, but Gurong was a little surprised. He leaned against a pear tree and didn't bother Shenzhen's class. He could trust it, so he leaned against the tree with Gurong in the gray robe. Without saying a word, Gurong would glance at him from time to time, as if she had something to say. On Guangling, he didn't notice a very powerful aura, and he couldn't even confirm what realm this person was at all, and the person who made him unable to determine it was either that this person had no soul power at all, or it was this person his soul power was above him, so he couldn't notice it. When he put Guangling's shoulders on his shoulders just now, he clearly noticed that this person was quite strong, so this person, in all likelihood, was some elder in the Elders' Hall. He didn't show up, probably because he was afraid of causing trouble. Gurong understood, so he didn't have an attack just now. Otherwise, according to his temper, he spoke so loudly and angrily, and if the person tried to show off to him, he would not let it go so easily. The sun and the moon alternate, time flies, and soon, Jinrenai learned the swordsmanship taught by Shenzhen himself, and during this period, Guangling's resentment became more and more serious day by day, although he knew very well that Shenzhen was only teaching Jinrenai. You played with the sword, but for some reason, he always felt that this guy was here to grab the cabbage with him. As long as he saw Jinrenai smiling from the bottom of his heart to Shenzhen, his heart would feel sour. At night, he deliberately didn't go to sleep, and asked Jinrenai to wake him up. As a result, during the day, this also attracted Little Phoenix's complaints. "You must be the new jealous king in mainland China, right? Is this all sour?" End of this chapter. Chapter 61. The Little Princess Zukei's Request. Havendao Empire. Havendao Palace. Prince's bedroom. Since the departure of the Xiandao Great Soul Arena, Zhu King seldom went out. He stayed in the bedroom, staring at the mural on the wall of the palace. The more he looked, the more he felt the lotus and Jinrenai on the mural. The spirit of the martial arts is similar. Moreover, in his memory, Jinrenai and that woman did have similarities. Could it be that his second sister was really his second sister? Seeing that Zhu King had been staring at the mural these days, Snake Spear Douluo and Guillotine Douluo didn't know what to say. The two of them looked at each other, but they didn't understand what Zhu King meant by this move. Every time Zhu King called them out, he just stood there without saying a word, and let them go when he finished watching the mural, as if he was being punished to stand still. The two of them had also deeply reflected on themselves, but they really didn't think about what they did wrong. For this reason, the two of them could only stand and look at paintings with Zhu King. "Uncle Shi, have you seen my second sister's martial spirit?" Suddenly, Zhu King called out Snake Lance Douluo. Snake Lance Douluo was slightly startled, and recalled carefully, "I've seen it." He had seen it at Xiandao Imperial Academy before, but he hadn't looked at it seriously at that time. He only knew that Jinrenai's martial spirit was really special, and it wasn't an ordinary lotus. "Then do you think that the martial spirit of the second sister is very similar to the lotus on this mural?" Zhu King turned around and looked at Xilong with his golden eyes. Xilong looked at him for a second, then quickly changed his gaze. He looked at the mural on the wall and carefully compared it with Jinrinyu's martial spirit in his memory. This, Xilong frowned slightly. If Zhu King hadn't mentioned the two resemblances, he really wouldn't have thought they were similar. But after he mentioned the word resemblance, he suddenly felt that they were quite a bit similar. Second, Mrs. Martial spirit is different from ordinary lotus. The lotus painted on this mural is also different from ordinary lotus. If you look carefully, you should be able to find that the flower painted on the mural seems to be a 9-petal fairy lotus. When Xilong analyzed this result, he was not very sure. After all, the things on the mural were not real, and he didn't know how the mural came about. But for his analysis, Dolphin Douluo expressed surprise. Is that the 9-petals immortal lotus? He asked back. Although he had never seen Jinrinyu's martial spirit, the mural painted on it should not be the fairy 9-petal lotus. After all, the fairy 9-petal lotus could not be painted with a brush. Douluo knew a little about the special characteristics of the 9-petal immortal lotus. He asked in confusion, "Young master, do you suspect that the second lady's true life experience is related to this painting?" Zhu King's actions can only make Porcupine Douluo think of this conclusion. After all, the young master of his family has been obsessed with the second lady's life experience for a while, and he doesn't know why. It's just suspicion. Zhu King pondered. It is true that the 9-petal immortal lotus spirit cannot be depicted with paintings, but he always feels that Jinrinyu has something to do with the woman in the mural. "Young master, why don't you ask someone to follow the second lady secretly?" Xilong suggested. He felt that only in this way, his young master could relax, otherwise it would be a waste of time to immerse himself in Jinrinyu's life experience all day long. It's useless. Zhu King glanced at Xilong and said, "Several contras have been sent out by the consecration hall to protect the second sister secretly. If we send people there now, they will only alert the snake. This matter cannot be done for the time being. Let Grandpa and the others know." Those words directly suppressed Xilong. Xilong was a little helpless. Why did he feel that this second young lady was treated better than his young master? Zhu King withdrew his gaze, turned around, and continued to stare at the murals on the wall. Many years ago, when he first entered the Xiandao Palace, he saw this woman once, and that was the only side. The woman disappeared into the palace. The reason why there is such a mural in the prince's bedroom is because it is really painted by Zhu King. He had never really understood the mural, nor had he pried into Zhu King's thoughts. His understanding of the mural could only be retained on the day he first met the woman in winter. It was snowy. That woman was wearing a white dress and a fox fur. She had long black and beautiful hair, her eyes were powdered, and her peach blossom eyes seemed to contain the scene of the prosperous age. On her body, Zhu King could feel that endless tenderness. He, who had never experienced maternal love since he was a child, found it in that woman. So he left this mural. The vines on the mural were most likely painted by the real Zhu King after the woman disappeared. He had been studying this mural for a long time, and he didn't understand some of its mysteries until he saw Jinrinyu's martial soul. People disappeared here for no reason, and no one was looking for them in the entire imperial city, which is really strange. "Brother, are you there? I want to find you something." At this time, a crisp female voice suddenly came from outside the hall. Zhu King looked down at Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupine Douluo. The two understood, and disappeared into the bedroom in a moment. "Elder brother." The person who came in was a girl with short blonde hair. She was dressed luxuriously and had jingles on her body, which made her look particularly cute. "Zhu King, what's the matter?" Zhu King turned his head and looked at the girl with a smile. The girl's name was Zhu King. She was the little princess of the royal family, and his younger sister Zhu King ran forward and wanted to say something, but when she saw the woman on the mural, she paused. "Brother, do you still miss her?" Zhu King looked at Zhu King with a hint of vicissitudes in her eyes. She turned her head to look at the woman on the mural, and said in a mysterious way, "She has been away for many years." Zhu King followed Zhu King's gaze and said, "Yes, she has been gone for many years." Hearing Zhu King's soothing and relieved tone, Zhu King breathed a sigh of relief, and she sighed softly. "There is also a portrait of her in my father's palace. After so many years, my father, like my brother, seems to have not been able to put it down. It's not that I can't let it go, it's just nostalgia for the old people." Zhu King glanced at the mural, and then he went around the screen and walked to the tea table. "By the way, you came to me in such a hurry today. But is there something wrong?" "Yes, but it's not a big deal." Zhu King followed behind Zhu King, smiling with crooked eyes, and sat on the seat opposite Zhu King. "Brother, I like that Jinryu very much. Can you find her? Zhu Ke said curtly towards Zhu King Jinryu. Zhu King raised his eyes. You? How do you know her, brother? Have you forgotten? I am also a student of Xiandao Royal Academy. Zhu Ke pouted. It seems that her brother really doesn't trust her. Zhu King was silent. He probably guessed that Jinryu was a little too ostentatious in the academy. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Bibi Dong's Guess. What's wrong, brother, can't you? Zhu Ke's little eyes were pitiful. In fact, she had wanted to meet Jinryu for a long time, but because her classes had been staggered with Jinryu's, she could only watch them in the classroom. During their training, she once sneaked out and was caught red-handed by Meng Shenji. Not only did she not see the person she longed for, she was also scolded, which was really uncomfortable. I don't know who made Meng Shenji follow Jinryu, so that she has no chance at all. It's so annoying. Seeing this, Zhu King shook his head with an angry look on his little face. It's not impossible. I was just thinking, why are you interested in her? She is not a man. She's amazing, Zhu Ke said bluntly. Isn't my brother not interested in her? As she spoke, she didn't know whether it was intentional or not. Her eyes glanced at the paintings on the wall of the inner room. Zhu King raised his eyes. This girl speechless. He withdrew his gaze, knocked on the armrest, and did not answer Zhu Ke's question. Zhu Ke pouted. This was the first time she encountered a wall in front of Zhu King. Brother, she couldn't help grabbing Zhu King's hand and said coquettishly, brother, you are the best for me. You will definitely help me, right? I really want to see her. Please help me. Okay. Zhu Ke's voice became more and more delicate, and Zhu King felt helpless for a while. The two-titled Douluo on the roof had goosebumps all over their bodies when they heard it, not to mention Zhu King, who was next to Zhu Ke. Okay, brother, I'll help you, but you have to promise me one thing. As soon as Zhu King was willing to help, Zhu Ke didn't care about 21. She looked at Zhu King with wide eyes and asked obediently, what's the matter, brother? She is not allowed to be brought into the palace, Zhu King said. Why? Zhu Ke looked a little disappointed. Because of her special status, even if you want to take her into the palace, she may not follow you into the palace. If you really want to see her, just listen to me and I will arrange for you to meet her. Zhu King patted Zhu Ke's hand. According to his understanding of Zhu Ke, when Zhu Ke asked to see Jinryu at this time, she most likely thought of it with him, but he still wanted to do this. Without finding out clearly, it would be impossible for others to get there first, so it was impossible for him to let Jinryu enter the palace. Then, okay, taking the next best thing, Zhu Ke nodded. She didn't insist on asking Jinryu to enter the palace, she just wanted to confirm one thing. Well, is there anything else? Zhu King asked. In response, Zhu Ke shook his head. No more. Then do you want to play at my place for a while? Zhu King raised his eyebrows and asked. Zhu stood up with a smile. She casually found an excuse and said, I can't help my brother. I have to go to Yuxun later, so I won't bother my brother here anymore. Without waiting for Zhu King's reply, Zhu Ke left the palace in a hurry. Her pace was faster than when she came, as if she was afraid that Zhu King would make a sound and leave her behind. This girl. Looking at Zhu Ke's leaving figure, Zhu King laughed and said nothing more. After Zhu Ke left, the two-titled Douluo who were lying on the roof jumped down one after another. They stood in front of Zhu King. Snake Spear Douluo said, Young master, Princess Zhu Ke is interested in this. Second lady, no, Zhu King said, she just wanted to go with me. She also thinks that second miss. Before Snake Spear Douluo could finish speaking, Zhu King interrupted him. Uncle Shi, there is something I need you to accompany me to do. Snake Spear Douluo was slightly startled. Young master, please speak. I remember there is a painting in the Forbidden Palace that Emperor Zhuai has collected for many years. I need that painting. Forbidden Palace. Snake Spear Douluo hesitated slightly. Young master, that is a place heavily guarded by Zhelong and the royal family. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to get in. Jin Rinxu has been lurking in Xiandao Palace for more than 10 years. Although most of the people in the palace have been replaced by Wuhan Palace, they have not penetrated into some more important places. If they break in rashly, I am afraid that I have my own plan, Zhu King said. Just 5 words blocked Shilong's mouth. Shilong was a little helpless, but it was difficult to say anything. He nodded and waited for Zhu King to speak. Elephant Douluo listened on the side, not quite understanding why Zhu King only used Shilong, but not him at all, so much so that he has no sense of presence here at all. If it weren't for his large size, Zhu King would probably ignore him directly. Young master, Porpoise Douluo said, wanting to do something. Zhu King glanced at him, said nothing. He signaled Porpoise Douluo to back down, and continued to stare at the situation of Emperor Zhu Yi. Porcupine Douluo pursed his lips, not knowing whether Zhu King was treating him well or not. Bad for him, but now that Zhu King had spoken, he had nothing to refute. After bowing, he withdrew. At the same time, in the Wuhan Hall, after reading the list copied by the ghost, Bibidong also sent people out to keep an eye on Jinrinyu. However, the people sent out were beaten with bruises and swollen faces before they had been watching for a day. Come back. The person who did it was the soul master sent by the consecration hall, and Bibidong had nothing to do about it. Although she was very angry, at this time, she could only suffer the loss of being dumb and said, "Back off." Bibidong rubbed her eyebrows and felt that Jinrinyu's matter was really difficult to deal with. She wasn't sure that Jinrinyu had a direct relationship with Zuinling, but Jinrinyu's eyes were so similar to Zuinling's. Bibidong pondered for a long time, but still couldn't find an accurate answer. Guimei and Yuguan stood in the center of the hall. They looked at each other and didn't know what was wrong with the Pope. Why he had been so worried these past few days and kept staring at the list of the dead in the Hall of Heroes. Could it be that flowers can be seen in the list? Yuguan shook his head, and Guimei also shook his head. They didn't know what riddle they were talking about. The next moment, Bibidong said, "Two elders, please step aside. I am going to rest." "Yes, Your Majesty." He just called them here and then drove them away. What on earth did the Pope want to do? Although they had a lot to say in their hearts, Yuguan and Guimei still showed respect on their faces. They bowed to Bibidong and then left the Pope's palace. Within a moment, the entire Pope's palace returned to tranquility. Bibidong stood up, her lavender eyes emitting a faint light. She closed her eyes gently, and everything around her was covered in darkness. This was a prison, with dim lights covering the entire space, and the smell of evil and blood. Bibidong's beautiful face seemed to enjoy this breath. She opened her hands and her body began to become light. After a while, her slender and beautiful legs turned into a huge spider belly. Small and dense eyes gradually appeared on her face, and the turquoise hair was creepy. However, she was very satisfied with this feeling. After a complete change in her body, she slightly opened her beautiful eyes. On the huge spider web, a man whose face could not be seen was hung here. His body was as dry as a tree, only skin and bones remained. The next moment, streaks of green light were sucked out of that man's body, and the light fell into Bibidong's body. Once she felt comfortable physically and mentally, she licked her lips contentedly. There's only one time left, just one time. You also it's been used to its full potential. End of this chapter. Chapter 63. Dust Heart presents his sword. The days in the 7 treasure glazed tile school are always pleasant but short, and within a few days, Jinrinyu bid farewell to Chenzin. During this period of time, Chenzin taught Jinrinyu a lot of things, but the time was still short, and Jinrinyu could not fully digest them, so he could only take them one step at a time. Jinrinyu also truthfully told Chenzin that she had a divine test. Her purpose was to kill the 5-year-old soul beast. After Chenzin heard this, although he was surprised, he didn't say anything. He tried his best teaching his little apprentice. The day before Jinrinyu left, he found a light red long sword from nowhere. The hilt of the long sword was made of gold and silver, and gold and silver were intertwined. It showed a colorful color. Under the hilt, there was a light red sword body. At the intersection of the two, there was a white lotus. The lotus figure was relatively invisible. If the soul power was not injected, it would not be possible at all. It is impossible to notice that the two are connected by lotus flowers. The light red sword body is covered with a faint light. Lotus flowers are engraved on the sword body one after another, exuding an extremely comfortable atmosphere. This aura is what Chu Chengxin noticed when he first saw Jinrinyu. It's so beautiful. Looking at the long sword floating in Chenzin's hand, Jinrinyu couldn't help but sigh with emotion, and she didn't know why. She always felt that this long sword seemed to have some kind of connection with her. I can see a special energy contained in the long sword. That energy is hidden in the lotus flower in the sword body. It is dazzling red, but at this moment, it has no reaction. Chenzin sent the long sword to Jinrinyu. and he said, Xiao Wu, this sword is called Jiu Lian, and it was obtained by the master from an old friend many years ago. In the past few days, I have discovered that you are related to this sword. The Nine Compassion sword is very predestined, and you are going to take the divine test right now, so I plan to give you the Nine Compassion sword as a gift. I believe that with its help, your road to the divine test will be smoother. From the first day Jinrinyu came to Kibao Glazed Sect, the Jiulian sword that had not been touched for many years in Chen Xin's hands suddenly started to move. According to Chen Xin's IQ, he would definitely not think that it was the Jiulian sword. He was going crazy, and he had sensed the same aura as Jiulianjin and Jinrinyu, so these days, he had been thinking about Jinrinyu's identity, but after learning that she had a divine inheritance in the end, Chen Xin didn't think much about it. After all, the special nature of the person chosen by God is there. It is normal for Jiulian sword to be recruited. What's more, Jinrinyu possesses the pure and good Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus martial spirit. Even if there is no divine test, there is a high probability that Jiu Lianjin will respond to her. It's just a matter of time. The reason why Chen Xin took out the Nine Lian sword so early was because Jinrinyu had to complete the test of kindness, but it was not easy for a soul master to kill a 5-year-old soul beast. As her master, Chen Xin definitely hopes that his apprentice can be injured as little as possible. This Jiulian sword recognizes its master, and as long as it is called upon, it will protect its master. This, for Jinrinyu, is of great benefit and no harm. Jinrinyu looked at the long sword in front of her, always feeling a sense of intimacy. She subconsciously stretched out her hand to hold the hilt of the sword, and the Jiulian sword suddenly flashed a strong red light. The red light reflected the entire yard. Chen Xin standing on the spot without moving, the 7-killing sword with a chilling aura appeared in front of him, blocking the light from the Jiulian sword. At the same time, the light feather under the pear tree also released its soul power to block the light coming towards him. He frowned slightly at the invading red, but he was a little surprised that the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect would have such a sword. The powerful fluctuation of soul power frightened the whole courtyard. Even Ningfengzi and Gu Rong, who were far away in the main hall, were aware of this fluctuation of energy. The two of them immediately rushed to Chen Xin's courtyard. Green grass sprouts grew on the light-covered ground, and the withered lotus leaves in the pond became emerald green again. Also, the pear blossoms that should not have bloomed in the season suddenly bloomed on the branches. White the petals fell with the wind, forming a beautiful scene in the yard. Ningfengzi couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the scene in front of him. His eyes moved slightly, and he subconsciously looked at Jinrinyu, who was holding the Jiulian sword. It actually recognized its master, Nine-Petal sword. Gurong stood beside Ningfengzi, also slightly surprised. His eyes widened slightly. He never thought that Nine-Petal sword, which had not been touched for decades, would recognize its master today. Old Jian, he yelled, and walked into the yard with Ningfengzi. One after the other the red light dissipated, and Jinrinyu felt that an extremely powerful and domineering energy was injected into her body. She frowned slightly, and the Jiulian sword in her hand was about to move. It seemed that it could fly out of her palm at any time. Calm down. Chen Xin's cold voice reached her ears, and Jinrinyu's impetuous heart was calmed down a little. She raised her eyes to look at Chen Xin, but she still couldn't hold the 9 Lian sword tightly in her hand. Master, don't worry, the Jiulian sword has recognized its owner, don't worry. Chen Xin flashed in front of Jinrinyu. He stretched out his hand to hold Jinrinyu's right shoulder, but his eyes glanced at the Jiulian sword in her hand. The Jiulian sword seemed to be suppressed, but for a moment, it stayed in Jinrinyu's hand without any movement. Seeing this, Gurong walked towards Chen Xin in a swagger. He walked past Jinrinyu, glanced at the Jiulian sword in her hand, and then slapped Chen Xin on the back. Hey! Lao Jian, why are you so generous today? You actually took out the 9 Lian sword and let this girl recognize her as the master. Gurong exerted a lot of force. Chen Xin stumbled and almost fell on Jinrinyu. Jinrinyu subconsciously avoided it. She moved a few steps to the side. She felt that it was still a bit close, so he ran directly to the pear tree and stayed next to Guangling. If her guess is true, wait a moment, old bones, your skin is itchy? Ping ping pong pong. As expected, Chen Xin immediately raised his sword and started fighting with Gurong. The two of them were coming and going up to the sky and down to the ground, without stopping for a moment. When Ningfengzi saw this, he shook his head helplessly. He sighed softly, and finally focused on Jinrinyu. The 9-Petal Immortal Lotus spirit will only appear in the most pure and kind people. and the 9 Lian sword will only recognize the most pure and kind people. It seems that this child is really a very special existence. Her character may be compared to that of an angel, more pure. Chen Xin and Gu Rong fought for a while, but Jin Renai called out to Chen Xin and said she was leaving. The two of them stopped. Xiao Wu, don't you leave until you finish eating? I've already asked the cook to prepare the food, everything is ready, why don't you finish your meal before leaving? Gu Rong spoke first before Chen Xin. His body was covered with dust. Guangling stopped him without hesitation to prevent him from bringing the dust on his body to Jin Renai. You have too much dust on your body, or don't get close to Xiao Yu. These days in the Kibao glazed tile school, Guangling changed from not wanting to see them at the beginning to responding to everything, but, although responding to everything, not everything was settled. For example, I know, you worried little old man. Gu Rong glared at Guangling, and then he really stopped, but after stopping, his first words were not it was Guangling who said to Jin Renai, hey, little old man, let's go have dinner together. Guangling rolled her eyes and said, I won't go, Grandpa Guangling, let's go after dinner. I don't want to go on the road hungry. Jin Renai tugged at the corner of Guangling's clothes. She looked up at the person in front of her. After thinking about it, she still felt that it's better to go to the Sunset Forest after eating, and, since Chen Xin gave her such an expensive gift, she has to pay back, otherwise, I'd be embarrassed. Guangling turned her head. Jin Renai winked at him with this idea. He was silent, and finally nodded. Okay. Gu Rong, who is not far from the two of them, said. 6. Is he a clown? End of this chapter. Chapter 64. There was a banquet in the main hall, and after 3 rounds of tea, Jin Renai was full, so she secretly called Chen Xin out to talk. Seeing this, Guangling originally wanted to follow, but Jin Renai winked at him to prevent him from following. He frowned, and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Why did this girl whisper to her cheap master? It's been many days, and I haven't seen her whispering to him. What a difference! There was a lot of resentment in the hall, and the breeze blew outside the hall. Chen Xin was a little confused as to why Jin Renai wanted to call him out to talk alone. Xiao Yu, he called softly, and Jin Renai glanced at him. Then, she opened the soul guide hanging on her waist. A white light flashed, and a chrysanthemum shining with purple light appeared in Jin Renai's palm. Master, this is the amazing velvet toothing chrysanthemum, a kind of immortal product. If you eat it, you can move your limbs with energy, open your blood vessels, and make your body indestructible. Perhaps it can help the master break through that difficult hurdle. Kiran Babel chrysanthemum is a huge chrysanthemum, showing a magnificent purple color. Every petal of the chrysanthemum looks fluffy and very cute. At the same time, the whole chrysanthemum is integrated, but there is no fragrance overflowing. The stamen in the center is high, the petals are more than half a foot long, and the top of the stamen is shining with a faint golden brilliance. The overall visual sense is extremely strange. With just one glance, without confirmation, Chen Xin knows how precious this fairy grass is. Fortunately, he knew that Jin Renai was the second lady of the Wuhan Palace, and there were strong people around him, so Chen Xin didn't ask too much about the origin of this strange velvet Tongshan chrysanthemum. He asks, reciprocity is a courtesy, Jin Renai said with a smile. Master, you gave me a 9 mercy sword as a gift to my apprentice, so why don't I give something equivalent to honor you, my apprentice? Also, I heard from Senior Girin that you are already in 96. I have been stuck in the level for a long time, thinking that maybe Qirong Tongyan chrysanthemum can help you, so I took it out. In addition, no matter how precious something is, it is only worth it if it is used on the right person, so master, this time take it as a wish from me, your apprentice. Knowing that Chen Xin would not accept it easily, Jin Renai also talked about the truth. She originally planned to use kilo tulips to win over Ning Fengzi, but now that Chen Xin gave her such a valuable item, she suddenly felt that only those that were beneficial to her were suitable for helping, and there were only so many celestial products. It was impossible for her to give 2 plants to the 7 treasure glazed tile school, so she simply cancelled the gift to Ning Fengzi. In her eyes, as long as Chen Xin is strong enough, nothing major will happen to the 7 treasures glazed tile school. As for the crazy woman in the Wuhan temple, she will find a way to stop her soul hunting action at that time. Chen Xin looked down at Jin Renai, and pursed her lips. From this moment, he truly understood that the 10-year-old child in front of him was not so immature. Perhaps, the origin of Jiu Lian's sword could be compared with her. Said, okay, Since Yue has said so, there is no reason for the teacher to refuse. But Yue, there is something that the teacher wants to explain to you. What's the matter? Jin Renai sent Qirong Tong Bianju to Chen Xin's hands. She looked up at Chen Xin with doubts on her face. Chen Xin put away the velvet chrysanthemum, and the breeze blew his white hair that was neither long nor short. He turned around and looked at the sky. Nine-Petal Sword is the sword of soul beasts. Sword of the soul beast? Master, what does this mean? Jin Renai frowned slightly. She raised her head and looked at Chen Xin's side face. Her brows stretched, and she suddenly felt that this little old man was quite handsome. However, compared to Guangling, to be honest, it's still a little bit worse after all. Guangling is cuter than him. The Nine-Petal Sword was originally born with a 19-year-old soul beast. Later, because the soul beast failed to survive the thunder disaster, it landed in the Sunset Forest. Many years ago, an old friend who was my teacher accidentally got it. This sword, but because she doesn't like to practice swords, she simply gave the sword to Weishi. She told Weishi that only the pure and good people can accept this sword, so these years, Weishi has been hide this sword in Xiangxiakang until your appearance. Chen Xin withdrew his gaze, turned his head and looked down at Jin Renai. From the moment you entered the Seven Treasures glazed tile school, the Nine-Petal Sword began to move around, and on your body, as a teacher, I have also felt something similar. Breath Moon. Changing the topic, Chen Xin stared at her and said, do you know who your parents are? On this continent, he had only seen Xiao Zioner awakening the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus spirit many years ago. To be honest, he suspected that Jin Renai was Xiao Zioner's daughter, but he remembered that Xiao Zioner was not married. Where did the daughter come from? Moreover, she had fallen many years ago, almost at the same time as the previous pope. How could she have such a young daughter? The more Chen Xin thought about it, the more she frowned. Jin Renai met his gaze and saw the complex emotions in the former's eyes. She was a little puzzled why Chen Xin looked at her like this. I don't know. She answered truthfully, I am an orphan who was picked up. Orphan? Chen Xin remained silent. Could it be that she really just awakened the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus martial soul because she is a pure and kind person? Master, what's the matter? Jin Renai asked. It was the first time she saw Chen Xin showing such an expression in the past 20 days, so he couldn't be suspecting that she was Jin Zunji's illegitimate daughter, right? That's too bullshit. It's okay. Chen Xin withdrew her complicated eyes, put his hands behind his back, and continued to look up at the sky. The pear blossoms are blooming, and the yard is full of spring scenery, but unfortunately, it is almost winter. After eating, Jin Renai bid farewell to Chen Xin and Ningfengzi. She and Guangling exchanged a glance, and each of them spread their wings and flew towards the setting sun forest. Chen Xin looked at Jin Renai's leaving back, and she didn't know what she was thinking. His expression looked a little unusual. What, Lao Jian, are you still reluctant to let go of your little apprentice? Gurong joked from the side. Talking, Chen Xin glanced at him and said calmly after saying that. He took his sword and left. Hey, Gurong dodged to follow Chen Xin. He chased after Chen Xin and kept chattering. I said, Lao Jian, something is wrong with you today. What did your little apprentice secretly tell you? You know her guard. How do you look at you? His little eyes want to tear you into pieces. I went to comfort him, but he just gave me a murderous look. His temper was so bad. At night, when the moon was shining in the sky, silver light fell on the ground. In the dark night, a white and blue figure fell in the star forest. Jin Renai found the cave where Guangling was imprisoned before with a memory given by the little phoenix. Tonight, she prepared to spend the night in a cave. The Sunset Forest is a long way away, and Jin Renai doesn't intend to rush day and night. Now that she has plenty of time, she can rest when she should. If she just travels during the day, she can arrive there in 3 or 4 days at most, and she is not in a hurry. The cave is neither big nor small, but quite shallow. Jin Renai took out a candle from the soul guide and lit it. The faint light illuminated the whole cave. He took off his coat, making him look like a silly roadier. After searching in the soul tool, Jin Renai couldn't find a suitable clothes to use as a quilt. She pouted and looked at Guangling. Grandpa Guangling, did you bring a quilt? I didn't bring the quilt, but I brought the clothes. The next moment, several outer robes appeared in Guangling's hands, and he threw them to Jin Renai and said, let's just make it. Oh, Jin Renai took it and spread the robe on the floor, and then she lay down on it. Guangling was sitting on the ground. Under the candlelight, his profile looked particularly beautiful. At this time, he was holding his face up, as if he was thinking about something. Jin Renai looked at him, a little fascinated. Tisk, Guangling propped her small face left and right, her brows were slightly frowned, as if something was bothering her. Light, Jin Renai wanted to ask out loud, but as soon as she spoke, Guangling turned back and looked at her. Xiao Wu. The two looked at each other, and under the flickering candlelight, everything seemed a bit ambiguous. Cough cough. Guangling coughed lightly, breaking the atmosphere. He pursed his lips, as if he wanted to say something. Jin Renai stood up. She knelt on the ground and looked at Guangling. Grandpa Guangling. Guangling looked a little hesitant. Jin Renai blinked. You want to ask me what I said to my master? And Guangling responded, but his voice was very small. Jin Renai was a little helpless. She sighed lightly, and knew that Guangling was always guarding against Shenzhen. In fact, she really wanted to say, Shenzhen has Ning wrong. Why would she want to poach someone else's granddaughter? Really, over the past few days, she has understood Guangling's discomfort. It is nothing more than fearing that her little cabbage will be poached, so she has been staring at her and Shenzhen all day long. It feels like she has been caught cheating on her. Same. Oh no, it's stealing. Stealing is the right thing to do. In desperation, Jin Renai told Guangling what Shenzhen had said to her, otherwise, Guangling probably wouldn't sleep tonight. But she didn't mention the matter of the velvet celestial chrysanthemum, and she was going to take it back to share with them after the exam was over. After listening to what Jin Renai said, Guangling didn't doubt it. And it was obvious to the naked eye that his mood improved a lot during the conversation between the two. Guangling asked about Jin Renai's physical condition. Jin Renai was slightly stunned, thinking that there was no reason to talk about the neutralization of the flames, so she deliberately burned the flames in her body to let herself. The body was so hot that the little phoenix was speechless. It was almost roasted into a barbecue phoenix. It was only because Guangling cooled down in time that it felt better. Faced with such a heaven-defying operation by his master, Little Phoenix had reason to suspect that this was Jin Renai's move to take advantage of Guangling. It's a pity that this is its owner and it can't be sold. Seeing Guangling holding Jin Renai, the little phoenix felt upset. Its soul left its body and flew to hang in front of the two of them, looking at them with such resentment. Please, can you pity me, little phoenix? I've lived for tens of thousands of years, and I'm still a single phoenix. End of this chapter. Chapter 65. Nether Barrier. A good night's sleep. Although Jin Renai and Guangling felt the resentment of the little phoenix, but because the phoenix was only a spirit body, it couldn't have any influence on them at all, so the two who were busy sleeping didn't care. But Guangling, in order to make little phoenix calm down, froze the air around him on purpose. Little Phoenix wanted to cry but had no choice but to hide in Jin Renai's body obediently. Although it is an ice-type soul beast, it has no body at present, and it cannot withstand the cold air released by Guangling as a spirit body. Because of this, it has remembered Guangling for a long time, and the last person hiding in Jin Renai felt sullen in her body. Jin Renai could sense Little Phoenix's mood swings. She was a little helpless, but she didn't say anything. These two bickerings didn't happen in a day or two. She had long been used to it and let them go. After tidying up the robes on the ground, Guangling and Jin Renai continued on their way. At the same time, in the setting sun forest, in the eyes of ice and fire, Tang San was dispelling the poison Douluo had given him. For some reason, Beijia Oxun Ice Course and Blazing Fire Xingjia Oshu actually grew back in a short period of time. Tang San took them off and absorbed them, jumped into the spring water, and immediately comprehended the mysteries of these two springs. Douluo went out for a trip, and when he came back, he saw Tang San soaking in the spring water. He immediately fished him out and reprimanded him, but found that Tang San was able to soak in the eyes of Binghuo Liangai for a while without any injuries. Therefore, he could not help but feel very surprised. Of course, Tang San didn't say that he picked the fairy grass here. All he had to do was escape safely from the eyes of the ice and fire Yanai, and it was his unexpected joy to harvest a fairy grass. You are really a monster, just like that girl. Douluo looked at Tang San and murmured, that girl. Tang San subconsciously glanced at the bare eyes of ice and fire. It was obvious that this place had been scoured by someone not long ago. He searched left and right, but only found star anise, black ice grass and raging fire. Xingjia Oshu's two fairy grasses, like others, were either immature or uprooted. He didn't even see a single one, and for some reason, Tang San always felt that the girl in Douluo's mouth was a people he knows well. Nothing dealing with you. Douluo didn't intend to tell Tang San about Jin Renai. He came here just to check on Tang San's progress. If this kid couldn't get rid of the poison, he would show mercy and let him die. Well, then consider him powerful. Titled Naluo, he will do what he says. And he will not break his promise. Seeing Douluo's tough attitude, Tang San didn't ask further. His body was already invulnerable to all poisons, and Douluo's jade phosphorus snake venom was just a joke to him, and now he had detoxified, and the bet was also for him. Victory. Douluo saw this. Although he was surprised, he didn't say anything these days. He has also understood what kind of person Tang San is. If it wasn't because Du Yuan was already with Yu Xianheng, he would definitely want Tang San to be his grandson-in-law, but if if it is a man, he will be more inclined to Jinrinyu. Although Jinrinyu is quite annoying. A few days later, Guangling and Jinrinyu arrived at Sunset Forest. And Jinrinyu relied on her previous memories to go to the place where Douluo sent her a signal last time. If her guess is correct, the 5-year Nether Flower Emperor should be entrenched nearby. As long as Guangling releases her soul power, there is a high probability that she can find the exact location of that guy. The divine test needs to be completed alone. Guangling is only responsible for helping to find the soul beast, and he can no longer interfere with the rest. In order to ensure Jinrinyu's safety, he keeps an eye on the battle situation not far away. If he really couldn't kill that guy, he would save him directly. In his eyes, life was far more important than the divine test. The 5th soul skill arrives without a trace. Guangling released his soul power instantly. His left eye slowly opened. His ice blue eye seemed like snow falling without a trace. The air in a radius of 100 miles plummeted, and before Jinrinyu's eyes, a vortex of starry sky suddenly appeared. Not long after, the 5-year-old Nether Flower Emperor sleeping in the deep middle of the Sunset Forest was awakened. Squeak! Sensing the cold murderous attack, the Nether Flower Emperor suddenly ran away. Its sharp cry pierced the sky, and the ground of the whole forest shook. It was crumbling, and its core suddenly emitted a faint red light, and the red light instantly formed a red and white 9-petal lotus. But this 9-petal lotus is very small. If it is not because of the white light, it may be difficult for people to see. Xiao, southeast direction. Remember, don't be brave. Life is the most important thing. Guangling soared to the sky. He looked at the Nether Flower Emperor sprinting wildly in the forest, and couldn't help frowning. A 5-year-old soul beast in a furious state is not easy to deal with. He was worried that Jinrinyu would try his best. Guangling couldn't help exhorting there is still time to complete the kindness test. Even if the 5-year-old soul beast cannot be solved this time, it is not a big deal. Compared with Jinrinyu being injured, Guangling hopes that she will be safe and sound. Silver Frost. Jinrinyu called out the Silver Frost sword in her hand, and red and blue flames burst out from her palm, and the flames reached the blade of the Silver Frost sword. Frost rushed straight at the Nether Flower Emperor who had just emerged from the grass. Squeak! Plant-type soul beasts are most afraid of flames, especially this extremely special 2-color flame. The Netherworld Flower King's barbs were ignited by the flames. It opened its big empty mouth and roared out a powerful wind force with thorns in it. Jinrinyu fixed her eyes and inserted the frost sword into it. The ground instantly frosted and was frozen. The 3rd soul skill, the Ice Blue Holy Sword, the Ice Phoenix wings appeared behind her. Jinrinyu flew into the air. The air around her instantly condensed, and a huge ice sword appeared behind her. The Nether Flower King has no flying skills. The cold air emitted by the Silver Frost sword froze its tentacles while it was entrenched on the ground, making it unable to move. Hey, the 1st soul skill, Thousand Jubing Leng. 3 ice prisms were fired together with a holy sword behind him, and the Netherworld Flower King let out a sharper scream. Its tentacles broke free from the restraints and split into thousands of filaments in the air. The filaments rushed towards Jinrinyu, surrounding people. At the same time, Netherworld Flower King spit out a huge ball of flame energy from his mouth. The ball of flame energy collided with Jinrinyu's soul skill, and white light flashed. Bang! Powerful fluctuations of soul power swept across the entire Sunset Forest. Jinrinyu turned back and raised her sword to cut off the filaments that were attacking her. Squeak! The 2 soul skills did not hurt the Nether Flower Emperor, but it kept screaming, and the severed filaments were reconnected in its screams, and continued to attack Jinrinyu. Jinrinyu easily dodged the attack. She was flying in the air, frowning slightly. Is it controlled by shouting? Thinking of this green vine, she whispered softly, and the Silver Frost sword in her hand turned into a soft dark green whip. The soft whip green vine has a paralyzing effect, and it is the most suitable to deal with this kind of spirit beast in a state of rage. However, Jinru is not sure whether the toxin of the spirit pattern scorpion can be used to control the Nether Flower Emperor. She had no choice but to give it a try. I saw Jinru flying quickly in front of the Netherworld Flower King. In a furious state, the Netherworld Flower King was very ugly. The petals were spread out and scattered on the ground. The huge head was filled with the scent of rosemary, and its tentacles split endlessly. It's like, you are consuming your own life force crazily. Master, it wants to exhaust its soul power and die together. At this time, the little phoenix in Jinru body spoke. Stop it now, learn. Jinru fixed her eyes, turned over, and dodged the energy cannon that the Nether Flower Emperor was attacking at her. The soft whip wrapped around one of the main tentacles of the Nether Flower Emperor, and Jinru released flames. Stab. The intense flames burned rapidly, and at the same moment, the Nether Flower Emperor suddenly released a reddish-brown mist, and the mist enveloped the radius of the Nether Flower Emperor's location, forming an extremely powerful barrier. Not good. Xiao Wu. Be careful. End of this chapter. Chapter 66. Right Arm Soul Bone Skill. Two male voices sounded almost at the same time. It was Tang San who came. The moment the Nether Flower Emperor released a barrier, Tang San entered the barrier extremely fast, while Guangling was blocked from the barrier. Xiao Wu, Guangling said anxiously. He summoned the Guangling Divine Bow and hit it directly on the barrier. Then, the smell of rosemary overflowed outside the barrier. Guangling's blow was directly rebounded. A reddish-brown breath penetrated into his body, his eyes opened slightly, and the coldness was overwhelming. Get out of here, The ice-blue left eye locked onto the barrier, which was a reddish-brown barrier. The barrier was filled with mist, and it was impossible to confirm what was going on inside. Guangling frowned slightly, but he didn't dare to break the barrier rashly. He tried to contact Little Phoenix in Jinru's body, but found that Little Phoenix was also isolated in it. Tisk. He was extremely unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. After forcing the breath out of his body, Guangling covered the Netherworld Flower King's barrier with a layer of ice. He couldn't guarantee whether his soul skills would affect Jinru inside after breaking through this barrier. At the same time, he didn't know where Jinru's specific location was, so he could only use this method to weaken it. The attack power of the soul skill should be used as much as possible not to hurt Jinru at this time. Within the enchantment after sliding into the barrier, Tang San used the purple demon eye to find Jinru's position when the Netherworld Flower Emperor was furious just now. He and Douluo noticed it in the ice and fire eyes. It was also the last time they saw the Netherworld Flower Emperor's attack. Douluo probably guessed that it was Jinru who was killing him. Jinru's name was called out. Tang San listened, and kept asking. Douluo was speechless. He didn't intend to betray Jinru, but who knew that Tang Laoliu didn't talk about martial arts, and used the third condition in exchange for Jinru's news. Although Douluo didn't lose anything, he still couldn't stop Tang San from going to the central area of Sunset Forest. He followed Tang San, but he really didn't expect that this kid was as crazy as that girl, and entered the Nether Flower with a shovel. The Nether enchantment produced by the Emperor. He really regarded himself as a titled Douluo envoy like Guangling. Douluo stood in front of the barrier, helpless based on the strength of him and Guangling. Anyone can break this barrier, but no one can predict how tough this barrier is. All the children have to see their grandparents. Douluo didn't dare to predict what big things would happen by then. Adhering to the principle of not taking matters to himself, he still stood on the branch to observe the Netherworld. A little lunatic, a little monster. Douluo doesn't think that the two of them can't break the barrier. Instead of trying to break the barrier outside without hurting Jinru, it's better to deal with the two people inside. I have some confidence. What if they can break it off perfectly? Little moon, misty mist filled the air. Jinru put on the gas mask without any surprise. When she heard Tang San calling, she was actually a little surprised. How did this guy get in here? Frowning slightly, Jinru was afraid that Tang San would hinder her divine test. So she took out the dagger from her waist and ran straight towards Tang San. The next moment, the cold blade fell on Tang San's neck. What are you doing here? Jinru asked coldly. Xiao, Tang San was slightly surprised. He looked at Jinru, but he didn't expect that the two of them would be facing each other with blades as soon as they met. He couldn't say the next words. He wanted to say that he was worried about Jinru, so he came in without hesitation. Unfortunately, in this situation, everything he said seemed wrong. Jinru looked coldly. Now in the barrier, Tang Suzi didn't know the situation inside. If she killed Tang San, just as the thought came to her mind, the next moment, The Netherworld Flower King appeared invisible behind her. A strong pressure came, and Jinri Niu's soul trembled. The dagger in her hand trembled slightly, but after a moment, it fell to the ground. Oh no, the mask then shattered. Jinri Niu gritted her teeth, she frowned, and her heart suddenly beat violently. Even if she wanted to move, it would be difficult for her to reach the sky. It's charm control. Does it want to fight hard? Thorn-warm blood suddenly sprinkled on Tang San's face, and Tang San's pupils trembled slightly. Xiao Wu, the tentacles of the Netherworld Flower Emperor pierced Jinri Niu's shoulders, one after another, dripping with blood, and the pain was excruciating. Small pearls grew from the tentacles, and that pearl transformed into a huge head, swallowing Tang San straight. Cold frost burst out from Jinri Niu's body, and the tentacles of the Netherworld Flower Emperor that pierced into Jinri Niu's shoulders were immediately frozen. It was only at this moment that Jinri Niu felt that this body was her own, and she gasped, breathing heavily. A fierce ice aura was produced all over his body, and the Netherworld Flower Emperor's thin strips were slowly frozen. Tang San was shocked. He looked at Jinri Niu with wide eyes. In front of Jinri Niu's powerful aura, his clear sky hammer was simply too small. Xiao Wu, a streak of ice entered her body. Jinri Niu had no intention of giving Tang San a chance to speak. Tang San, I don't need you to worry about it. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang San's body suddenly stiffened, and he could no longer move. Owner, the spirit body of the little phoenix flew out from behind Jinri Niu's wings, and with a breath, it directly blew Tang San into the corner of the barrier, so as not to let him run out and get in the way. Master, now is not the time to kill him. Solve this problem first. Just ugly. After being kept warm in Jinri Niu's body for so many days, little phoenix still doesn't know whether Jinri Niu had murderous intentions just now. If it weren't for the fact that there is Netherworld Flower King to deal with now, then the mistress would probably have to go see his grandfather. Got it. I know. Jinri Niu stretched out her hand and crushed the tentacles that pierced her shoulders and were frozen by the frost and snow. Wings grew out from behind her and flew into the sky, widening the distance between herself and the Netherworld Flower King. The Netherworld Flower King was injured by the frost and became even more furious at this time. However, its soul power was consumed very quickly and it opened the Netherworld barrier again. Now its strength is far less than what it was at the beginning. Jinri Niu seized this opportunity. A light suddenly flashed on her right arm. Under the light, a looming soul bone appeared in Jinri Niu's sight. She raised her hand, the flames burned brightly, and in the core of the fire, a nice lotus bloomed. There is frost and snow in the air, and the fallen flowers are colorful. The ice lotus soul bone skill is like a flower in the prosperous age. Jinri Niu's right eye exuded an extremely powerful aura, and her pink eyes turned crimson in an instant. The flame in her hand floated into the air, and a giant lotus bloomed instantly, and the frost hit the entire netherworld. Countless ice blue petals fell from the sky, and these petals pierced into the Nether Flower Emperor's body like thorns, and the Nether Flower Emperor let out a tragic cry. Son, he suddenly noticed the strange movement in the barrier, and also noticed the aura of the soul bone he gave to Jinri Niu. Little Moon, end of this chapter. Chapter 67. When did you get an old friend? The Ice Lotus Soul Bone skill is an extremely lethal group-wide attack skill. It blooms in a rain of flowers, and the petals are flying down. The pieces are like knives. Thousands of petals penetrate the body of the Nether Flower Emperor, and the Nether Flower Emperor screams to the sky. All the tentacles were cut off by the Ice Lotus, and thousands of petals pierced through the body, and there was no breath in an instant. Jinri Niu was dressed in red, soaked in blood. Against a backdrop of the sky full of icy blue petals, this dazzling red shone like a ruby, which was daunting. Tang San stared at Jinri Niu floating in the air, and was amazed. At this moment, he realized that Jinri Niu hadn't used all her strength in the match in the Heaven Da Great Soul Arena, and even, she had been hiding all the time on strength. In just a few months, what would a 10th level auxiliary type soul master go through to become a 35 level controlled type soul master? The external soul bone, the right arm soul bone, these things are extremely precious. The spirit hall, is it really that good to her? Base, when the nether barrier dissipated, a beam of light suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped Jinri Niu, and the time was instantly frozen. The god of kindness appeared in the beam of light. She had long black hair, creamy skin, and an extremely pure appearance that made it impossible to understand. When he had evil thoughts, he wore a long white dress that was spotless, with 2 strands of black hair hanging in front of his shoulders. His big black eyes had a gentle and touching brilliance, and his demeanor was like a white lotus that was not stained by the secular world. Breathtaking, Jinru, my successor, you have done a good job. Next, I will start the second test of kindness for you. I hope you can successfully complete it. The god of kindness raised his hand, and a white light pierced Jinru's eyebrows. Jinru closed her eyes, feeling her body and mind warmed up. A little bit of starlight fell on the wound on her body. Slowly, the wound was healing by itself. A tiny silver lotus flower appeared on her forehead. Under the gathering of the divine power of kindness, the originally blooming lotus flower returned to the shape of a bud. After a while, Jinru opened her eyes under the guidance of the kindness god. Realizing that all her injuries had recovered, she couldn't help thanking her aloud. Thank you, my god, you're welcome. The kind god waved her finger, and she gently tapped Jinru's eyebrows, and said with a smile, Jinru, I have planted divine power in your spiritual world. You only need to use your spiritual power to get rid of it. Open the secret realm of goodness to take the second test of kindness. The content of the second test of kindness is body training. It lasts for 3 months. There are 10 levels of body training levels. Each level will have different tests. You only need to pass the level within 3 months to be successful. Also, now that the first test has been completed, your second spirit will automatically attach a spirit ring, and at the same time, the lifespan of the first spirit ring of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus will be increased to 10,000 years, promoted to 10,000 years. Jinru was a little surprised. She knew that there were rewards for the divine test, but she never thought that the rewards would be so good. She really deserves to be one of the 5 great divine kings. This move is generous. Jinru, the god of kindness, looked at the little girl in front of him. Her smile seemed to have a soothing effect. Jinru just glanced at it, and there were no distracting thoughts in her heart. The body of the god of kindness slowly dissipated, and she moved toward Jinru. Yu smiled and said, my successor, please remember to maintain a pure and kind heart. Only in this way can you combine with my divine power. Base. After the words fell, the beam of light disappeared into the air, the god of kindness disappeared, and time passed and turned again. At this time, a flash of light flashed in Guangling's mind. His eyes paused slightly, and he didn't know what he thought of. The next moment, seeing that Jinru in the air was unharmed, Guangling rubbed her eyes. Xiao Wu, he called out. Jinru looked up at the sky above her eyes, and for a moment she didn't understand what the kindness god said. She was not a kind person in the first place, so how could she talk about a pure and kind heart? Withdrawing her eyes, she didn't think much about it anymore. Now that the exam is over, the lifespan of her Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus's soul ring has increased, and the second martial soul has attached a soul ring on its own. No matter how you say it, it's something worth celebrating. Grandpa Guangling. Jinru flew towards Guangling, and landed steadily. Guangling stepped forward, and as soon as she caught Jinru, she looked left, right, up, and down, after confirming that Jinru was not injured. When he got there, he was very surprised. Xiao Wu, what's going on? You don't have any injuries on your body. Guangling raised her eyes and looked at Jinru. Jinru looked at him and slowly put out a question mark. No, Grandpa Guangling, do you want me to be injured? Of course not. Guangling immediately refused, and he explained, the old man just thinks it's a little strange. You entered the enchantment of that beast, and released Binglian's spirit bone skill. It's impossible that you didn't get hurt at all. Speaking of this, Guangling seemed to think of something. Have you seen the god of kindness? He asks. Hey, Jinru nodded and said, yes, it was the god of kindness who healed my injury, so that's how it is. Guangling suddenly realized, and it was at this time that he noticed that there was a very small silver lotus imprint on Jinru's eyebrows. Was it planted by the kind god? In this regard, Guangling did not ask further questions. Since the god of kindness appeared, it proved that Jinru's first test was successfully completed. Now, he can return to Wuhan Hall. But what was it like just now? The Nether Flower Emperor is dead, and a black 10,000-year soul ring and a red glowing soul bone burst out from above its body. It is a right arm soul bone, with a faint red floating on the golden surface, and the soul bone is in the shape of the Nether Flower Emperor's oval, and on the surface of the soul bone, there is also an imprint of the Nether Flower Emperor, and next to the imprint is a group of flame marks. Jinru walked in front of the Nether Flower Emperor. She reached out to store the 5-year-old soul bone. She planned to leave directly, but when she turned around, she saw Douluo standing on a tree branch watching the battle. Old poison, Jinru murmured. She raised her head and looked at Douluo. Douluo looked at her with the same surprise in his eyes as when Guangling looked at her just now. The 5 priestesses of the Wuhan Hall, Sword Douluo of the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile School. This girl is really not an ordinary person. Douluo jumped off the branch. He walked towards Jinrinyu. Guangling noticed, and immediately dodged in front of Jinrinyu, blocking Douluo's way without any surprise. "What do you want to do?" he said coldly. The temperature around his body began to drop, and Guangling didn't think Douluo was a friendly army. After all, Jinrinyu now has a 5-year-old soul bone in his hand, so it's hard to guarantee that he didn't come to snatch the soul bone. "Grandpa Guangling, he is my friend." Seeing that Guangling was about to treat Douluo as an enemy, Jinrinyu immediately spoke out, blocking Guangling's ridiculous thoughts. "Friend." Guangling withdrew his breath, frowned slightly, and turned to look at Jinrinyu. "No, Yue, when did you have such an old friend?" End of this chapter. Chapter 68. It's only been a month. How come Jinrinyu suddenly has such an old friend? They are decades apart. Can they still be friends? And, how did the two of them know each other? Why didn't the people he sent to protect Jinrinyu give him any news? Guangling's eyes were full of doubts. Jinrinyu smiled, and said with a slight smile, "Grandpa Guangling, his name is Douluo, and he is the grandfather of Sister Yanzi. I asked him to do me a big favor last time, and I am going to help you too. He was very helpful, so the two of us became good friends. Don't you think so, Senior Douluo?" After saying that, Jinrinyu tilted her head and threw the topic to Douluo as expected. Guangling looked at Douluo with eyes full of doubts and displeasure. Douluo was a little speechless. This little lunatic just concealed her own identity. It's outrageous to blame him now. Jinrinyu winked at Douluo. Douluo really felt helpless, but now he had to cooperate with Jinrinyu. After all, he really couldn't defeat the 5th worshipper of Wuhan Palace. Haha, that's what happened. That's what happened. Guangling's eyes were extremely gloomy. He stared at Douluo, saying that he had murderous intent, but he didn't have murderous intent. He said that there was no murderous intent, which was much more terrifying than murderous intent. She raised her mouth in embarrassment, thinking that this little lunatic Jinrinyu would really cheat people. Seeing that the atmosphere between the two was a bit weird, Jinrinyu quickly broke it with a smile. She took Guangling's arm and said in a good voice, "Oh, it's alright, Grandpa Guangling, I'll talk to you after what happened." Say, can we not scare people first? To be honest, she was quite afraid of Guangling's dark face. Guangling replied in a deep voice without saying anything. What he is thinking about now is not about Douluo and Jinrinyu, but about the 2 contras he sent out. Those 2 freeloaders, Chenzin and Douluo, didn't send any news to him. He only learned about it from Jinrinyu's mouth. Do you really think he won't care about it? Too trash. Sensing the resentment emanating from Guangling, Jinrinyu pursed her lips, not knowing what was wrong with the little old man. "Grandpa Guangling, there is one more thing." In order not to make Guangling think too much, Jinrinyu was going to tell Guangling about her promise to send the spirit bone, so as to avoid any misunderstanding. "What?" Guangling looked down at her, completely different from the look she had just made with Douluo. "Douluo, face-changing master, right? 6, did I kill the 5-year Netherflower Emperor?" Jinrinyu asked. After much deliberation, she still felt that this matter had to be turned around. Otherwise Guangling would definitely think too much about it. "Yes," he replied, a little confused. "Then do these 5-year-old spirit bones belong to me?" Jinrinyu asked again. At this point, Guangling seemed to understand what she was going to say. "Yue, you don't mean to tell the old man that you plan to give this old poison this soul bone?" He pointed to Douluo, and Douluo said, "Don't you?" Jinrinyu nodded. "Smart, Grandpa Guangling." Guangling was speechless. A little jealous. Is it important to be smart or not? 5-year-old soul bone, if you say give it away, you will give it away? Why didn't I see him off? Although, he does not lack this, but this is not something that is not lacking, it is a matter of mind. How can this stinky girl be so nice to an outsider? Guangling didn't know how many words she had said in her heart. Jinrinyu looked at his fluctuating expression, and probably knew what he was beeping about. She pulled Guangling's sleeve to make people come closer to her. Guangling, although Ling is very upset now, there is no way to let the person next to her be Jinrinyu. He put his ear close to Jinrinyu with an expressionless face and had to squat down. At this time, he had to say that Jinrinyu is a dwarf. Jinrinyu tiptoed, and she whispered in Guangling's ear, "Grandpa Guangling, those 5-year-old spirit bones are nothing, and you and I are both missing, so don't worry about it. Besides, I have a better one." Something to give you is definitely better than these 5-year-old spirit bones. Something better than a 5-year spirit bone. Guangling raised her eyebrows, and looked at Jin Renai in disbelief. Jin Renai nodded, indicating that what she said was true. Guangling tilted her head, always thinking that this stinky girl was used to stabilize the morale of the army. If don't believe me. Guangling's doubtful eyeballs almost stared at Jin Renai's face. Jin Renai pouted, looking a little angry. Guangling secretly thought that it was not good, and quickly retorted, no. Ever since he made Jin Renai angry last time, he had lost a small treasury of his own. If he made her angry again this time, he would have to steal his eldest brother's small treasury. Otherwise, he would really have no money. Taking a step back, the world is brighter. Guangling felt that this was not the right time to argue, so it was better for him to take a step back. Seeing that Guangling had no objection, Jin Renai snorted softly, turned around and handed the 5-year spirit bone to Douluo. Senior Douluo, I will do what I say. Here, the 5-year right arm spirit bone. The shiny soul bone was delivered to Douluo, and Douluo's face was beaming with joy. Haha, little girl, you really impressed me. If you have anything in the future, you can come to me directly. In addition, those things you want, you can pick them whenever you want. The door of the ice and fire Yinai and I will always be open for you. Well, thank you, senior, Jin Renai replied with a smile, and the goal was achieved. A 5-year old soul bone is not a rotten street thing. Everyone knows how rare a soul bone is, and Douluo is no exception. He frowned, walked away with a smile on his face, completely forgetting that he came to this place following a certain little monster. After sending Douluo away, it was time to resolve Guangling's matter. Jin Renai turned her head and looked up at him. As expected, Guangling got angry after Douluo left. He didn't care about what Douluo said. He only cared about what kind of thing could be compared to 5,000-year soul bones, or even more importantly gave it away as promised, but he didn't even do it. Oh, that's alright, Grandpa Guangling, I'll tell you when I get back. Grandpa and the others must be waiting, so let's not waste time. Looking at Guangling's resentful little eyes, Jin Renai knew what he was thinking without even guessing. Obviously he has no shortage, but he insists on asking for it, just like a child. When Jin Daoli was mentioned, Guangling put away his childishness. After Jin Renai's kindness test was completed, he should go back and report the letter immediately. Otherwise, what should I do if I let my elder brother wait and don't reimburse him for the gold soul coins? Considering that he was a poor person now, Guangling could only nod. Okay, go back first. After saying that, the two of them spread their wings at the same time. In the depths of the setting sun forest, a huge green vine suddenly appeared at an extremely fast speed. It wrapped around Jin Renai's heels, and suddenly retracted. Moon. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 is The Heartbeat. Deep in the sunset forest, in the dark and humid environment, a thick and long green vine is driving fast. It is green and covered with a layer of white spiritual patterns. This layer of white spiritual patterns is like a gorgeous armor. Made a slight sound as the green vines moved. The wet grass was slid by the green vines, leaving indelible traces. It rushed towards a light. In the sight, a girl in white had a pair of ice blue wings. Her face was cute and her body exuded. There was a breath that made it very familiar. Is it the Lord? When it smelled this breath, Ludang's body paused slightly, and it stood still. Seeing that the girl was about to leave, without thinking too much, it immediately stretched out 3 vines and rushed towards the girl's ankles. The vines were silent, and the girl didn't feel the danger. The 3 green vines wrapped around the girl's ankles without any surprise pull. Moon. Although Guangling noticed Lu Tang's movements immediately, the moment he stretched out his hand, he still failed to catch Jin Renai. Looking for death, Guangling's eyes flashed, and a powerful pressure suddenly emitted from his body. As a level 96 title Douluo, the pressure exerted by Guangling made the green vine feel like its soul was being stripped away, and its vines paused slightly. Under this pressure, the movement suddenly became slow. At the same time, Jin Renai's body was also affected. This feeling was the loss she suffered from BB Dong last time. Those who dare to touch me are really impatient. Guangling suddenly dodged behind Jin Renai, and he hugged Jin Renai. Jin Renai's small body was completely surrounded by his embrace, and the next moment, a dagger appeared in his palm at an unknown time. Stab! The sharp blade cut on the vines of the green vines, but in an instant, all the vines disappeared. Guangling hugged him into his arms, and Jinrinayu leaned on his chest like this. "Grandpa Guangling," Jinrinayu exclaimed, and subconsciously hugged the slender waist of the person in front of her. The sound of heart beating came from Guangling's chest. Jinrinayu pressed her tightly, so she could clearly hear Guangling's heartbeat every breath. Guangling thought that Jinrinayu was frightened, so he flew in the air with the person in his arms, and stretched out his hand to calm her emotions. At this moment, Jinrinayu's heart suddenly started beating, and she looked up in a strange way. "Ling, I saw that." Guangling also just looked down at her, and the two looked at each other. Guangling smiled, his eyes were soft, as if with a kind of calming magic. "Xiao Wu, hold on tight." As soon as the words fell, Guangling released his soul power in an instant. Jinrinayu hugged him tightly. The 9 soul rings suddenly appeared. Guangling held the Guangling divine bow and opened his eyes to lock on the huge green tree in the forest. Vine. Then, he pulled up the Guangling divine bow without hesitation, and hundreds of ice arrows fell from the air, hitting Ludeng's body directly. "Hey!" Green Vine screamed. It was bigger than a giant python. Without any defense, it could not avoid this attack. Frost arrows scattered all over the sky, piercing the body of the Green Vine one after another. The cry of the Green Vine resounded through the sky. It quickly activated the spirit patterns on its body to defend. A white protective shield appeared impressively. It resisted the light Ling Bingjian's attack. The Green Vine's secret path is not good. This is definitely a title Douluo over level 95. At present, the Green Vine is just a soul beast that has just turned 8 years old. With its current strength, it can compete with a light feather in front of it. If it continues to consume like this, it can only die. "Hey!" Green Vine cried out unwillingly. Its body kept bowing towards Jinrinayu, as if it had something to say. Unfortunately, Jinrinayu was facing away from it at this time and was completely unaware of its prayers. In Guangling's eyes, the entanglement of green vines just now was undoubtedly hurting Jinrinayu. His eyes were slightly cold and he mentioned it again. Guangling Divine Bow, the third soul skill, high explosive penetration. An icy blue cold arrow with a characteristic of ice blast directly hits the protective barrier in front of Lu Ving. The air shakes, the ice blast hit the protective barrier, and the barrier instantly shattered. A series of ice arrows attacked, and in just a moment, the entire white protective barrier dissipated. Not good, the green vine was shocked. At the moment when the barrier disappeared, it subconsciously turned around and drove towards the depths of the Sunset Forest without hesitation. The coercion belonging to the title Douluo made it tremble. It knew that if it stayed there, it would be killed by the terrifying title Douluo within 5 minutes. As an 8-year-old soul beast with little offensive power, Green Vine is lucky to be alive today. It lives in the depths and has no natural enemies. If it weren't for the movement of the flower buds deep in the forest today, it is impossible to risk a breakout. Unfortunately, it did not get the answer it wanted today. But it is sure that the girl in white must have something to do with the Lord. She has the aura of the Lord on her body. Thinking of this, Green Vine stopped escaping again. After so many years, it was the first time it sensed the presence of the Lord's breath. If it left like this, it would never know when it would be able to find the girl again. Thinking of this, it was heartbroken and turned back again. On the other side, Ludeng escaped, but Guangling did not intend to kill it. Now the area where he and Jinrinayu are located is the middle of the Sunset Forest, and further inside is the core area. As far as Guangling knows, the core area of the Sunset Forest is there are several 10-year-old soul beasts living in the area. Under normal circumstances, even a level 99 Jin Daolu would not be able to break in easily, let alone a peak Douluo who is only level 96. So, consider again, he still chose to let go of the green vine. After all, it ran quite fast, and in the confrontation between Guangling and Ludeng just now, a black figure passed by, taking away Tang San, who was abandoned in the corner without leaving a trace. Putting away the martial soul, Guangling hugged Jinrinayu and landed safely. He found a stone that he could sit on and placed Jinrinayu on it. Jinrinayu looked at him and wanted to say something, but Guangling squatted down and checked the condition of her ankle without saying anything. After checking that there were no skin injuries, Guangling raised her eyes and looked at the person in front of her. "Yue, how are you? Are you okay? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" San Lian cared. Her cold palm touched Jinrinayu's ankle. Jinrinayu's heart suddenly felt numb. She opened her eyes slightly, goosebumps all over her body. She subconsciously wanted to pull her feet back, but Guangling refused letting go. Jin Renai and him looked at each other. Panic flashed across her almond pupils. Her heart was pounding. She felt that the man in front of her was particularly attractive. His eyes were extremely gentle, and the usual appearance of fighting and squabbling is completely different. It seems that he has noticed that Jin Renai is about to withdraw his foot, so his palms rubbing his ankles are more gentle. I'm fine, Jin Renai replied, a little stumbling. She turned her head away, diverted her gaze, and couldn't help pouting. After all, she is also a mature adult, so if you treat her like this, are you really not afraid that she will have other thoughts? End of this chapter. Chapter 70 Daughter of Soul Beast? Guangling tilted his head. He looked at the girl with a puffy face in front of him, and he didn't know what he was thinking. After a while, he let go of the hand holding Jin Renai's little feet, and confirmed, "Are you alright?" The ankle was suddenly released, and Jin Renai regained consciousness in an instant. She quickly retracted her foot, put on her shoes, and replied perfunctorily, "I'm really fine. Maybe it's just because she hasn't been touched by a handsome man that she has this special feeling." Jin Renai explained this to herself. However, the heart that was beating violently just now did not return to calm when the foot was let go. She subconsciously stroked her left chest, and the fluctuation of the chest could be felt with almost no need for perception. Although she has never eaten pork, she has seen pigs running away. Jin Renai's eyes trembled slightly. Could it be that she was? Before the idea started to sprout, Guangling's vigilant voice suddenly rang in his ears. "It's coming again." Jin Renai raised her eyes subconsciously, only to see Guangling get up quickly, and turn her head to look in the direction where the green vine came just now. The temperature around him plummeted, and the ground began to frost. Jin Renai followed his gaze to look, eyes tightened. The next second, the green vine broke through the darkness and appeared in front of the two of them again. The huge body covered the sky and the sun, and the green vine stood upright like a giant python. Jin Renai summoned the silver frost sword, intending to take action, but the green vine stayed in place and did not continue to move forward. His body was swaying in the air, with no intention of attacking the two of them. "Master, it's not malicious. Don't hurt it." At this time, the little phoenix in Jin Renai's body spoke. As a soul beast, the little phoenix can communicate with a green vine, and it can clearly perceive that this green vine seems to have a special connection with the powerful soul power in Jin Renai's body. At that time, the spirit pattern armor on Ludeng's body shone obviously, and it hurriedly called out to Jin Renai, "My lord, it's a pity that Jin Renai doesn't understand animal language, so she and Guangling can only hear Ludeng's beep, 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 as if acting like a spoiled child." Jin Renai sent a sound transmission to Little Phoenix, and Little Phoenix understood. It adjusted its state and was ready to communicate with Ludeng. Ludeng wanted to get closer to Jin Renai, but Guangling's eyes made it feel a little scared. It shrank subconsciously, and the voice of Little Phoenix suddenly sounded in its ears. "Little Ludeng, what can you tell me? Come on, let me convey it to the master for you." "You?" Tang paused, slightly surprised. It never thought that Jin Renai's body still had a soul beast. "How did you do that?" Aware of Ludeng's shock, Little Phoenix smiled triumphantly and said, "How about it? Don't you envy Little Phoenix me?" The green vine has no face, so Guangling and Jin Renai can't see what its expression is, but its emotions seem to resonate with the spirit patterns on the body. But in a moment, those spirit patterns form two words engraved on Ludeng's body: envy. "You still blame the honestly?" The little phoenix laughed and said, "It can see everything outside through Jin Renai's pupils, and naturally, the spirit pattern of the green vine is also imprinted in its eyes." Cough cough. Sensing that Jin Renai's mood fluctuated a bit, Little Phoenix quickly got down to business, coughed twice, and said, "Little Ludeng, if you have anything to say, just say it." "Little Phoenix, I'll pass it on to me directly." "Master, don't worry, my master is very good, you don't have to be afraid." "It is good," Ludeng nodded. In fact, it was not afraid of Jin Renai. What it was afraid of was the light feather beside Jin Renai. "Well, does your master possess the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus martial soul, MMMM?" "Yes," Little Phoenix nodded. "It will answer this question. There is no need to ask the master." "Really? Is it really the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus Wuhan?" The green vine seemed a little excited, and in an instant, it twisted its body crazily like a tornado, swaying and swaying, making people dazzled. Jin Renai and Guangling looked at it, not knowing what kind of expression to put on for a while, and they also didn't know what Little Phoenix said to this green vine, which could make such a big vine twist like a little wife, and kept yelling, Just listening to this sound makes people think about it. To be honest, Jinru would have thought that little phoenix was teasing Luden, which is why it made such strange movements and sounds, but thinking about it this way, Jinru didn't intend to express her thoughts. She just urged Xiao Fenghuang to do something serious, and after a while, Xiao Fenghuang conveyed the purpose of Luden. Master, this time what happened? Little Green Vine said that its former master was a nine-petal fairy lotus soul beast. It has been waiting for its master to return to the Sunset Forest, but now, it has sensed the nine-petal fairy on your body. The breath of the lotus, so it wants to confirm one thing on you. The reason why it wrapped around your feet just now is because it wants to invite you to enter the core area of the Sunset Forest, not because it wants to hurt you. Lord, Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus Soul Beast, the core area of Sunset Forest. Is this saying that Xiao Wu is related to the Soul Beast? After Guangling listened, her eyes lowered slightly, and she subconsciously looked at Jinru. Jinru's face was a little confused. She frowned slightly, and said, "Let it be clear, yes, Master." As an intermediary beast, the little phoenix also conveyed back and forth from both sides. Ludeng's words were always half clear, and the little phoenix was very distressed when he heard it. It communicated with Ludeng for a while, and finally gave Jinru a bad and the accurate answer. Master, Little Green Vine said that its master is a soul beast over 10 years old, who once lived in the core area of the Sunset Forest. Many years ago, its master left the Sunset Forest. It didn't come back either. So far, it has waited for about 8 or 90 years before the breath of its master appeared. In other words, it was Little Green Vine, waiting for you, the master. Lu Tang's words were a bit unbelievable. After Guangling heard it, he didn't know what he was thinking. He raised his eyes and looked at Lu Tang. The aura emanating from Lu Tang's body was softer. If the soul power is pulling, it is also somewhat similar, but Guangling withdrew his gaze and turned to Jinru. He knew best whether Xiao Yu of his family was a soul beast, not to mention that Jin Daolio helped awaken Jinru's martial soul back then. If she was really a soul beast, wouldn't they be able to find out? Impossible. And if this statement is not true and what Lu Tang said is true, then there is only one possibility left. Jinru is the daughter of the soul beast. Thinking of this, Guangling's eyes moved slightly. A daughter of a 10-year-old soul beast, why do you feel a little silly? Guangling thought for a while. The nine-petal fairy lotus spirit is not common, but not only can it be obtained only by relying on the inheritance of parents, he has checked the information. The nine-petal fairy lotus will appear on the pure and kind people, and Jinru just happened to get the inheritance of the god of kindness. All of this seemed so logical. How could it be related to the soul beast? No, so wrong. His eyes quietly fell on Jinru. A hint of surprise appeared on Jinru's immature face. Although she suspected that this body had an unusual background, she never thought it would be at the level of a soul beast. No wonder when she was here with Douluo last time, she always felt that there was something in the depths of the setting sun forest that was attracting her to go in. It turned out that it was green vines. End of this chapter. Chapter 71. The secret hidden in the core area of Sunset Forest. Hey, the green vine in the air swayed its body again, and it bowed its head towards Jinru, as if to say something. The little phoenix listened, and conveyed, Master, the little green vine said that it wants you to follow it to the Sunset Forest core area. Go to the core area of Sunset Forest. Jinru frowned slightly, a little hesitant. It can be said that it is more dangerous than the core area of the Star Dou Great Forest. Any soul beast is more than 5 years old, not to mention whether there are 10-year-old soul beasts in it. It's the opposite. The other soul beasts inside may not be as harmless as the green vines. It's a bit too unsafe to go in there, but the breath of green vine did resonate with her. Perhaps the origin of this body is hidden in the core area of Sunset Forest. She's not going. Guangling spoke up and rejected Lu Tang for Jinru. Although he was also curious about the relationship between Jinru and the Lord, Lu Tang said, the core area of Sunset Forest was not something Jinru could go to at this time. If something unexpected happened inside, even he wouldn't be able to escape unscathed. Jinru didn't expect that Guangling would reject Lu Tang's invitation for her. She slightly raised her eyes to look at Guangling, and was about to speak, but was interrupted by Little Phoenix. Master. This time I am standing in front of the eye. The core area of Sunset Forest is very dangerous. There are many struggles between soul beasts. This little green vine can live in it. It is probably because of good luck. If you follow it, go in, it may not be able to protect you. For the sake of safety, Little Phoenix, I strongly don't recommend you go in at this time. Master, As for Jinrinayu's life experience, the little phoenix had already made a good guess. It knew that the core area of the Sunset Forest must contain secrets about its master, but due to the fact that Jinrinayu's current strength was not enough, it was not enough at all to compete with the soul beasts inside. Going in now is undoubtedly seeking death. The mystery of his life experience will be revealed sooner or later, and there is no need to try to be strong for a while. What little phoenix thinks is that it's okay to go in after Jinrinayu is strong enough. Anyway, its owner is upgrading quickly, and it will take another 8 years at most. Rinayu can definitely reach the realm of title Douluo 8 years, whether it is long or short. Anyway, little green vine has already waited for 8 or 90 years, and it is nothing to wait another 8 years. Although it is shameless to think so, there is always someone who has to make a sacrifice. This person, oh no, this beast, can only be little green vine. Little Phoenix and Guangling rarely united front, and Jinrinayu's hesitation didn't last long. She would not be confused about this kind of matter. She nodded, and Jinrinayu agreed with what Little Phoenix and Guangling said afterwards. Little Phoenix expressed his thoughts to Ludeng euphemistically. After hearing this, Ludeng shrank slightly and used its vines to gently approach Jinrinayu. Finally, it stopped in front of Jinrinayu meters away. The body of green vines covered with spirit patterns was originally just a snake-like vine. At this moment, another vine extended out. The vine held a petal on its body, and it sent the petal to Jinrinayu's eyes. Beckoning her to take it, Jinrinayu looked at the petals, slightly dazed. Is it the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus? For some reason, Jinrinayu seemed to have a soul connection with the green vine. When the green vine approached her, she could clearly see the pink aura emanating from the green vine, and this aura was connected to her right eye. Exactly the same as what emanates from inside the green vine. Swings the vine, gently swaying its body, sending the petals towards Jinrinayu's hand. Jinrinayu's eyes moved slightly. She did not take the petals directly from the green vine, but reached out and touched its body. Thank you. Suddenly, the spirit pattern on Ludeng's body suddenly emitted a white light. Guangling subconsciously wanted to pull Jinrinayu back, but found that as soon as he touched the white light, his whole body was instantly rebounded. This rebound force even it still multiple times the power he used. Moon, although he didn't feel any danger in this white light, Guangling still couldn't help worrying about Jinrinayu, and frowned slightly. With his keen observation ability, he suddenly noticed that there seemed to be two people appearing in that white light. There were very similar breaths of soul power. One came from Jinrinayu, which he was very familiar with, and the other came from Luvine. The auras of the two of them blended together. Very strangely, they actually became the same soul power. How could it be the same? Guangling was surprised. A human being and a soul beast, how could their soul power and aura be exactly the same? Could it be that this green vine is a branch of the nine-petal fairy lotus? In the white light, Jinrinayu saw the transfiguration of the green vine. It was a lolly with long green hair. Her body was entwined by vines, she had no legs, and her upper body was exposed, only covering the important parts. Half of the body is green. It looks like emerald, crystal clear, giving people the feeling of a treasure in the world. Her face was a little pale, her eyes were reddish, and the aura that Jinrinayu was familiar with undoubtedly came from her eyes. Are you, Midori? The environment around Jinrinayu is just an empty space. There is a distance between her and the little lolly in front of her. In other words, she and her are actually far apart, but visually, the little lolly is very close. It's me, the little Lolita replied, with a warm smile on her pale face, and her voice was very gentle, which made Jinrinayu unable to associate the tender little Lolita in front of her with the green vine like a python just now. Together her eyes paused slightly and she carefully looked at the empty land. What is this place? Jinrinayu asked. This is the Lord's Barrier. Little Lolly replied that her body was entangled by vines, and she seemed unable to leave that place. Jinrinayu tried to approach her, but no matter how she walked, there was always such a long distance between herself and little Lolly. Really, and her guess was true. It's an illusion. Can you answer a few questions for me? Jinrinayu retracted her thoughts and looked at the little Lolly. Little Lolly smiled and nodded. Of course, but little girl, this is only limited to what I know. Well, of course. Jinrinayu nodded slightly and said, First question, Ludeng, why do you have to let me go to the core area of Sunset Forest? Is there anything hidden in that core area? Yes, little Lolita answered. But she didn't answer completely. Jinrinayu stared at her for a while, and seeing that there was no response, she knew that asking this question was useless. The second question, what is in the core area? Isn't it related to the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus? Yes, There is no doubt that the little lolly only answered one word again. Everything was expected by Jinryu. She pursed her lips, and an unusual color flashed in her eyes. Last question, Luden, have you met me before? In the quiz with prizes, what is used life experience? The first one who answers correctly will receive 200 coins. I'm a little sleepy, so I went to bed. By the way, the previous chapters have been changed, so I suggest you look back. End of this chapter. Chapter 72. She is the child born of the union of a soul beast and a soul master. Outer Sunset Forest. It was getting late, and in the dark night, only a few sparse stars were twinkling beside a bonfire. A man in black robe was grilling fish. His face was a bit weathered and his beard was unkempt, giving people a sense of decadence. However, despite this, he always had a strong aura hidden in him. He was light and easy. He glanced at the unconscious black-haired boy next to him, and a complex emotion flashed in his eyes. Then, he continued to look at the bonfire. In the bonfire, blazing flames burned. The man's eyes moved slightly, and his vision suddenly blurred. Several figures appeared back and forth in his pupils. His fist tightened slightly, and a young boy's surprised voice suddenly came from beside him. Dad. This was the first time Tang San saw Tang Hao in so many years, and his emotions were particularly complicated. In surprise, he hugged Tang Hao, as if to confirm whether the person in front of him was real. Dad, little San. Tang Hao's voice was very low. He reached out and gently stroked Tang San's hair. It looked like an old father was really expressing his love for his child. However, Tang Hao's eyes were always a little different and complicated. Emotions. Although Tang San is a mentally mature time traveler, he also longs for family affection. For him, Tang Hao is the sustenance of this relationship. The emotions of being a child gradually filled his heart. He let go of Tang Hao and lowered his eyes. He opened his eyes and blamed himself. Dad, I lost Xiao Wu. I know. Tang Hao patted Tang San on the back. His words and deeds were unusually calm. That matter has nothing to do with you. Tang San was silent afterwards. He seemed to sense something was wrong, and suddenly raised his eyes to look at Tang Hao. Dad, you know Xiao Wu? No. Tang Hao turned his gaze to the bonfire in front of him. He looked at the blazing flames with a blank expression on his face. He looked a little too calm, as if he didn't have the slightest feeling for the Tang Yue. That Tang San said, "You, it is right to rescue your partner who was captured by the Titan Great Ape." What? Tang Hao's words shocked Tang San. His pupils dilated slightly. He didn't understand why his father would say such words. Tang Yue was his younger sister, the adopted daughter of his father. How could his father be so calm? Although he knew that Tang Hao didn't like to talk to himself and his sister since he was a child, he never thought that his father would have no feelings for his sister at all. Why on earth is this? Tang San was a little confused. He frowned and pursed his lips. Is it because Tang Yue was a child adopted by his father? But even if they are adopted, they have been together for several years. Why do they have no feelings at all? Tang San was thoughtful, and soon he noticed a different emotion in Tang Hao's eyes. Dad, was it you who saved Xiao Wu? He asks. No. Tang Hao shook his head and answered truthfully. He did know that Tang Yue was being hunted by the 3-year-old piranha, but if he was asked to choose between Tang San and Tang Yue, he would definitely choose Tang San. What's more, that little rabbit was a 10-year-old soul beast, and the two were similar. Of course, he prefers his biological son, to be honest. He also went to find Tang Yue after confirming that Tang San was safe, but when he found Tang Yue had already been taken away by the 5 worshippers of Wuhan Palace. Although he could get Tang Yue back, but it's really not necessary for now. He can't reveal his whereabouts, so he can only give up on Tang Yue. What he didn't expect was that Tang Yue would eventually become the second young lady of the Wuhan Palace. Not only was she secretly protected by Contras, she was also sometimes accompanied by titled Douluo. This kind of treatment made it unimaginable that she was just a picker of 5 offerings. Go back, kid. However, Tang Yue was originally from the Spirit Hall, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to let her return to the Spirit Hall, lest Tang San would still refuse to attack her out of brotherhood after he found out about her life experience. Many emotions flashed in Tang Hao's eyes. Seeing this, Tang San also confirmed that in the Star Dou Great Forest, his father was in the dark. Father, I have a few questions I want to ask you. He lowered his eyes and said, well, ask. Tang Hao responded, probably knowing what Tang San wanted to ask. Now he showed up, actually to tell Tang San about Tang Yue. These days, he saw that Tang San had been brooding about Tang Yue's affairs, not thinking about food, and staying up all night, which even affected his cultivation. Tang Hao originally placed his hope on Tang San, But who knew that Tang San? He actually kept delaying his own progress for the sake of an adopted sister. If he continued like this, let alone avenging a yin in the future, even if he wanted to fight Jin Rinyu, it would be difficult to achieve success. It also happened that Jin Rinyu came to Sunset Forest. Tang Hao guessed that she would know her own life experience soon, so telling Tang San about it now was the best choice. Xiao Wu's martial spirit was just an ordinary lotus flower before. Why did her martial spirit change after she disappeared for 3 months? Also, why did her soul power level increase by leaps and bounds? Did she experience something? Tang San asked repeatedly, but he didn't ask about Jin Rinyu's life experience. Tang Hao gently raised his eyes and glanced at him, then picked up the branches on the ground and threw them into the fire. When she was 10 years old, there will be a martial soul evolution, and after the martial soul evolves, the soul power will be upgraded to the corresponding level. It's that simple. It's that simple? Tang San always felt that he was being deceived. Why is it like this? He asks. Normal soul masters never had this situation. Even in Yu Zhiagang's theory, such a special example had never appeared. For this reason, Tang San felt very confused. Because her mother is a soul beast, Tang Hao said lightly, ordinary soul masters can't successfully awaken her martial soul at all, so there will be a martial soul evolution when she is 10 years old. But the prerequisite for martial soul evolution is that there must be a soul with the light attribute. The teacher came to help her awaken. Only in this way, the soul power in her body will be opened, so this is why her soul power will increase by leaps and bounds. What? Soul beast? Tang San's pupils trembled slightly. Xiao Wu's mother is a spirit beast. Yes, Tang Hao replied calmly, without explaining too much. Not only Jin Rinyu's mother is a soul beast, but his son's mother is also a soul beast. Thinking of this, Tang Hao's eyes flashed a trace of loneliness. Silver, he said silently in his heart, Father, Xiao Wu is a soul beast. Tang San made a sound in surprise. His mind could no longer turn around. He stared at Tang Hao closely, just wanting to get an accurate answer. Tang Hao's eyes slightly raised. He was silent for a while, and said, She is the child born from the union of a soul beast and a soul master. She existed when I met her in the early years. What? Tang San was shocked again. A child born from the union of a soul beast and a soul master. Can a soul beast combine with a soul master? This was the first time Tang San heard this statement. He was surprised. His eyes stared straight at Tang Hao. Those eyeballs were about to hit Tang Hao's face. Tang Hao didn't immediately respond to Tang San's shock. There was always some rustling movement in the grass at night. Only Tang Hao's ears moved slightly, and a look of awe-inspiring flashed in his eyes. Little San, Cao Group 295,208,551. If you answer correctly, come to me to receive 200 coins. End of this chapter. Chapter 73. Confirming Identity. Inside the barrier, there was a fleeting light and the starry sky was bright. Jin Rinyu stared at the green vine in front of her for a long time, but she never got the answer to the last question. Green Vine looked at Jin Rinyu, and a different color flashed across her eyes. As if looking at another person through her. You are very smart, miss, she said happily. Young lady should have guessed what I'm going to say next. Yes, Jin Rinyu answered with dark eyes and pursed her lips. All signs were now revealing the fact that she was the daughter of a soul beast. How could she not think of this if she was so smart? Her mother is the Lord of Green Vine, the 19-year-old soul beast, the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus. However, it is obviously a 19-year-old soul beast, and the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus should be an extremely powerful existence. Why did she abandon the original body, causing the original body to be picked up by Tang Hao, and a series of disasters occurred? In addition, when the original body is hurt, doesn't the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus have any sense? Why would she let those soul beasts hurt the original body? No matter how you say it, it doesn't seem to make sense. As the saying goes, the poison of a tiger does not eat its children, and Jin Rinyu agrees with this saying. But if you say so, there is only one reason left. The Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus died many years ago only. Jin Rinyu frowned slightly. This timeline doesn't match up at all. The mother of the original body couldn't have died after giving birth to the original body, right? A 19-year-old soul beast was just one step away from joining the ranks of ferocious beasts. How could it fall so easily? Could it be said that she died because she did not survive the thunder tribulation? Thinking of this, Jin Rinyu couldn't deny the possibility of this. While she was thinking, the green vine suddenly released a thin vine around Jin Rinyu's little finger. Jin Rinyu looked down. Subconsciously I saw a faint reddish light at the intersection of the green vine and her finger. The ray of light was very soft, as if it was very suitable for the soul power in her body. After a while, a touch of red suddenly appeared in her right eye, and the ray of red danced in the air with a gentle wind. Ren Yu's body suddenly felt like a volcano erupting, and an extremely powerful but gentle soul power emerged. Those soul powers slowly emanated from the junction between her and the green vine, forming dots of starlight. The starlight appeared on the side, and the distance between Jinrinai and Ludeng began to slowly draw in, but after a while, the infinity between the two disappeared instantly, and then, the lower body of Ludeng transformed into a pair of white legs. Those entangled in the vines on her body were untied. Slowly, she emerged into the air, and finally landed in front of Jinrinai. She was wearing a green long skirt and 2 braids. She looked pitiful to me, especially touching her eyes are also green, and in the eyes, the shape of a green vine is engraved on her face, and there is a drop-shaped flower tint between her eyebrows. She is short in stature, but she is also very good at adaptation. Jinrinai looked at her with a bit of amazement in her eyes. So, is this Ludeng's real human form? Sure enough, soul beasts are all pretty in their incarnations. Don't look at the ugly ones like Lu Teng. In fact, she is still a little lolly, very cute. Jinrinai thought so, but didn't realize that Lu Teng raised her hands in front of her, and saw Lu Teng took a few steps back, crossed her hands on her chest, and then, she stood on one knee in front of Jinrinai. He knelt down and said respectfully, "My subordinate Lu Yaxin, please see the young master." End of this chapter. Chapter 74. 1 kilowatt light bulb. The white light disappeared, the barrier dissipated, and Jinrinai and Lu Yaxin appeared in front of Guangling together. Guangling didn't pay attention to Lu Yaxin. "So, it's alright, that ugly monster didn't hurt you, did it?" Although he didn't feel the murderous aura in the white light, there was still a lot to ask. Guangling released his soul power to check Jinrinai's body, and found that Jinrinai was fine, and his soul power level had even been raised to 4. At the 10th level, he was a little surprised. Before coming to Sunset Forest, Jinrinai was only at level 35. How could she be raised by 5 levels after fighting a 5-year-old soul beast and staying in that white light for a while? Isn't this a bit too fast? There was a look of envy in Guangling's eyes, which must be related to the god of kindness. As a person chosen by God, his level improvement will naturally not be slow. In other words, this speed makes people somewhat envious and jealous. Pouted, he showed his childish side again. Seeing this, Jinrinai couldn't help smiling. She raised her head and approached Guangling, with her hands behind her back, staring at him closely, and said, "Grandpa Guangling, are you jealous that I passed level at the age of 10? His small thoughts were ruthlessly punctured, and Guangling's face was a little embarrassed, but he has lived for so many years, and he still has a thick skin, and he will not blush so easily. How is it possible? This old man is a peak Douluo, jealous of you, who just broke through level. What are you doing?" He refuted aloud, snorted, completely ignoring Lu Yaxin, who appeared with Jinrinai. Jinrinai narrowed her eyes slightly. She didn't believe that Guangling was not jealous of her. He must be jealous of her. Otherwise, how could she have sensed the unusual look from Guangling just now? He must be jealous, for sure. With a slight snort, Jinrinai said quietly, "Grandpa Guangling, why are you so full of lies?" Guangling, the smile on his face couldn't hold back. Immediately he lowered his eyes, pursed his mouth, and said a little unhappy, "Xiao Wu, you will hurt the old man's heart by talking like this. The old man treats you wholeheartedly. How can you use this kind of thinking to figure out the old man? It's too much. Are you tired?" As he said that, he felt aggrieved, and he knew at a glance that he was a repeat offender, an old fritter. Jinrinai didn't expose him. After all, there was Lu Yaxin beside her. Lu Yaxin had just explained some things about her mother Jiu Ziner to her. For now, her purpose was to find Jiu Ziner. Although she felt that Jiu Ziner had fallen long ago, Lu Yaxin said that she could still feel Jiu Ziner's weak soul power, but that soul power was not in Jinrinai's body, which meant that Jiu Ziner maybe he is not dead yet, or in other words, there is another person who has Jiu Ziner's beast consciousness hidden in his body. Otherwise this situation would never happen. Of course, this is just the speculation of Jinrinai and Lu Yaxin. Jinrinai is more inclined towards the latter, while Lu Yaxin is more inclined towards the former. Taking Lu Yaxin out of the Sunset Forest, otherwise it would not be so easy for someone who doesn't know much about her to investigate this matter, but since Lu Yaxin has not cultivated for 10 years, she has no way to leave the Sunset Forest afterwards. She maintained the shape-changing appearance. But this time the shape changing was still due to the light of the enchantment left by Xiao Ziner for many years, and Jinrinai had put a lot of fairy grass in the soul guide before. If Lu Yaxin was placed in it now, it might be a bit crowded. So, after thinking about it, she finally settled on Guangling. Seeing that Guangling was still angry, Jinrinai activated her coquettish skills without hesitation. "Oh, Grandpa Guangling." After saying that, she took Guangling's wrist, and her whole body was attached to Guangling's body. The two of them looked very friendly, but it made Lu Yaxin on the side feel like a light bulb. How could Guangling stand Jinrinai's coquettishness? He trembled all over, covered in goosebumps. "My little Yue, can you speak well?" He glanced at Jinrinai, although his mouth was a bit disgusted, but his body was very honest, and he didn't intend to shake off Jinrinai at all. Jinrinai chuckled, rubbed her head against Guangling's arm and said, "Of course I can, as long as you don't get angry. I can talk well." "Then you can talk well, like a kitten." It made Guangling want to pick her up and leave. Okay. When Jinrinai answered, she turned her head to look at Lu Yaxin and said, "Let me introduce you, Grandpa Guangling. This is the guardian beast of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus, Luvine." Lu Yaxin. Guangling glanced at Lu Yaxin lightly, and his eyes stayed there for only about a second. Before Lu Yaxin could say hello, he looked away and landed on Jinrinai. When looking at Jinrinai, Guangling's gaze was obviously much softer. It can be said that without contrast, there is no harm. Lu Yaxin's hand that was still in the air didn't know whether to take it back or not. In short, it was quite embarrassing. "I have to say that her light bulb is quite bright, at least 1000 watts." Jinrinai was also a little embarrassed. She didn't expect Guangling to change his face so quickly with other girls. She thought he only did this to men, but unexpectedly, men and women are the same to him. Coughing twice to ease the embarrassment, Jinrinai began to introduce Guangling. "Yaxin, this is Guangling Douluo, my grandfather's subordinate. In terms of seniority, I also call him Grandpa. How about you?" "Just call him Guangling Douluo or Five Priests." "Yes, young master." Lu Yaxin nodded. She glanced at Guangling, and silently recited the words Guangling Douluo in her heart. Then, she seemed to remember something, and suddenly walked to Jinrinai's side, whispered, "Young master, I would like to ask, how old is your grandfather in the human world? Also, how old is this Guangling Douluo, Grandpa?" Jinrinai looked at Lu Yaxin with some confusion. Why did she suddenly ask this question? Grandpa is about 100 years old, and Grandpa Guangling looks like 90 years old. What's wrong? Lu Yaxin was silent for a while. She didn't know what she was thinking. She pursed her lips. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know what to say. In the end, she had no choice but to give up, and chose to be perfunctory. "It's nothing. I just feel that the Five Priests looks pretty young, so ask." "Oh," Jinrinai responded without doubting it. She turned to look at Guangling. "Grandpa Guangling, I may need your help with something." "What?" Guangling replied and asked. "My soul guide is full, and I can't let Yaxin go. Maybe I need to borrow yours." "Well, yes, take it." Facing Jinrinai's request, Guangling didn't want to refuse. He tore off his soul tool in a big way, and handed it to Jinrinai without any hesitation. "Yeah, thank you, Grandpa Guangling." Jinrinai took Guangling's soul guide with a smile. She gestured to Lu Yaxin. Lu Yaxin nodded and turned into a small vine and entered the soul guide. "Okay, Grandpa Guangling, let's go." Guangling responded, and just turned around when his eyes suddenly froze, stopping Jinrinai from moving forward. Someone is here. End of this chapter. Chapter 75. What? Jinrinai was a little puzzled by Guangling's sudden interception. She looked at where Guangling was looking, and three figures suddenly flashed in the night sky. After a while, the three of them landed not far from Jinrinai and Guangling respectively. Place. Little San's aura disappears here. What happened? That's Jinrinai. There were two men and a woman who came, one with a crew cut, one with a slob, and a woman who is pretty but blind. It is not difficult to know that this is the golden iron triangle that came out to find Tang San, Uzia Gang, and Liu Erlong. Ever since the three of them heard that Tang San had been captured by Douluo, they rushed towards the Sunset Forest non-stop. On the way, they met Douluo, who was smiling, so they stopped him and questioned him. He was in a good mood, so he naturally didn't care about them. It was at this time that he remembered Tang San, who he had left behind in the central region, thinking that since the golden iron triangle has been found, let them find it. Anyway, he did not lose the person, and the little monster has to rush in by himself. If it is broken there, he deserves it. After he revealed the news about Tang San to the Golden Iron Triangle, he happily returned to the Ice and Fire Eyes and forced poison with a 5-year-old soul bone in his hands. The sky is big and the earth is big, not as powerful as his poison, so let them toss about that shit. Anyway, there's a peak Douluo beside Jinrinaju, so are you afraid that the three of them will fail? The Golden Iron Triangle is indeed quite famous, but Guangling doesn't take them seriously. They are just 3 ants. With 1 arrow, he will be disabled even if he doesn't die. Jinrinaju, have you met Tang San? Yu Xiaogang's tone was questioning as soon as he came up. He frowned and seemed worried. In fact, Jinrinaju knew that he was just doing this because he knew that Tang San's father was Tang Hao, and because Tang San could prove his theory. It was just what she said, and she was sure that if she said something unpleasant, Yu Xiaogang, would definitely use Aoshan Douluo to make trouble. Facing a person with such rudeness and bad attitude, Jinrinaju didn't want to give him a good look. She sneered, took out a rag from Tang San's body and threw it in front of Yu Xiaogang from nowhere. Tang San, he's dead. What? Yu Xiaogang was shocked, and Flanders and Liu Erlong beside him were also shocked. Flanders said angrily, Jinrinaju, do you know what you're talking about? Little San is your brother. How dare you? After glancing at Guangling next to Jinrinaju, the 3 of them roughly knew what was going on. Based on Jinrinaju's strength, it is impossible for her to kill Tang San. Now Tang San's breath is cut off at this place. If what Jinrinaju said is true, then it was this titled Douluo who killed Tang San. Looking at the rags thrown by Jinrinaju on the ground, Yu Xiaogang could clearly confirm that this was the clothes Tang San wore before he was abducted by Dugubo. Liu Erlong supported him from the side, so that he didn't fall to the ground. How could Liu Erlong see his sweetheart so sad? She finally met Yu Xiaogang, how could she let him be sad? Immediately, the man became angry. You can even kill your own brother, are you worthy of being a human being? A fire fist rushed towards Jinrinaju. Liu Erlong is now a level 78 soul sage, her main focus is on violent output. This punch, but did not intend to spare Jinrinaju's life. Jinrinaju didn't hide either. She squinted her eyes slightly to see Liu Erlong attacking her, and said lightly, love is crazy, damn it, I know how special the relationship between myself and the other party is, and I still insist on it. Xiang Xiao, if you don't know, you will say that you have a deep love for each other, but if you know, this is shameless. Even Tsunade doesn't care. Has the old man allowed you to do it? Beside Jinrinaju, Guangling exuded the aura of being a peak Douluo, and the ground was covered with frost. Just releasing the soul power and opening the soul ring was enough to make Liu Erlong tremble. Old man, I don't hit women, but you are an exception. Before Liu Erlong got close to Jinrinaju, Guangling flashed in front of Liu Erlong. He punched Liu Erlong in the abdomen. Liu Erlong's pupils trembled slightly. Before anyone could react, Guangling flashed to her again. She kicked her tailbone above her head. Crack! Flender and the others heard the sound of Liu Erlong's bone breaking even if it was tens of meters away. What? Guangling had no intention of letting go of Liu Erlong with just one punch or kick. He hit Liu Erlong's body countless times in the air. Liu Erlong let out a painful scream, which made Flanders and the others feel heartbroken. Broken, 2 dragons. Flender immediately activated his martial spirit and went forward to help Liu Erlong. Seeing this, Guangling summoned the Guangling Divine Bow. He kicked Liu Erlong flying away, and then bowed to Flandre. Little owl, old man, today I will definitely shit you down. 5th soul skill, coming without a trace. Guangling opened his left eye, and the ice blue pupil locked onto Flander's heart. Yu Xiaogang yelled badly. He failed to catch Liu Erlong just now, so he let Liu Erlong roll several times on the grass. After hitting the tree trunk, she stopped rubbing against the ground. At this time, Liu Erlong was seriously injured, completely lost the ability to fight. Boss F, be careful, Yu Xiaogang exclaimed, and the light ice arrow shot out instantly, silently and invisible. Although Flanders dodged sideways under Yu Xiaogang's reminder, he didn't know that the arrow had already locked the target. Even if he dodged it, and will definitely return, hit, thorn. Before Flanders could get close to Guangling, his whole body was pierced by ice arrows, his heart was damaged, and he suddenly fell to the ground, losing his ability to fight. Seeing his companions fall one by one, Yu Xiaogang is just a 29-year-old soul master, let alone Guangling. Even Jinrinaju can kill him. Seeing Guangling walking towards him step by step, Yu Xiaogang was frightened. He was holding the rag Jinrinaju had just thrown to him in his hand, and subconsciously stepped back. He gritted his teeth and said nothing. Unexpectedly, Jin Renai would actually kill Tang San. Do you know who Tang San's father is? With no way to retreat, Yu Zhigang had no choice but to take out Tang Hao to scare Guangling. His father is Aoshan Douluo, Tang Hao. Who hasn't heard of Tang Hao's reputation? Unfortunately, Guangling didn't care. He snorted coldly, and kicked Yu Zhigang to the tree trunk with one kick. It's just a turtle with a shrinking head. Are you really scared of being an old man? Grandpa Guangling, abolish him, Jin Renai shouted. Okay, since Xiao Wu said it was going to be scrapped, then it will be scrapped. Guangling turned her head and gave Jin Renai a smile, and Jin Renai smiled at him. The two of them were connected. The next moment, Guangling put away her smile and turned her head. The air around her suddenly condensed. If you can die in the hands of the old man, you deserve to die. End of this chapter. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.